Hey everyone, this is Chris from HistoryBoiz here. Please note that this episode contains descriptions of topics that may be distressing for certain people to hear. That includes, but is not limited to, subjects like abortion, back alley illegal abortions, and a number of horrendous medical practices. If that feels like it would be too much for you, we fully understand and would love to see you for our next episode. Thank you so much, and do your best to enjoy the show.
It's time to learn with the History Boiz. Yeah.
Hey everybody, once again, you are listening to us, the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon, and I am a history boy.
I am back from my
His vacation.
I had the common decency to get COVID right in the 2-week block between recording.
Yeah,
I know. Well, and I was fine by the time we had to record the last episode, but then my kid was still testing positive, and I couldn't get a babysitter in the house, and it was just pandemonium. So it's good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah. I mean, you were being selfish and thinking of only yourself and your child and your loved ones.
And I listened to the last episode, and how dare you bring up my foiled bank robbery on the show? Yeah.
Just came to mind.
And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy, as always. Thank you so much for listening. As we delve into something controversial, it had to happen sometime, right, guys? But with us today, because it would be kind of stupid for us to not do this subject matter without at least somebody that has a uterus.
Right.
Well,
it's like last week with or not last week, last episode, you don't have Zach to talk about music, so you have to bring in someone to talk about music, Aaron Wee. When you have to talk about fallopian tubes, you bring in this gal right here.
Yeah. Sally Jordan, everyone.
Happy
Funny
to be here.
Comedian.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you for
having
joining
me.
us. I think this would make you the first official history boy that's also actually not a boy.
Yeah.
I think the rules of cats apply. Like, all cats are boys. All history people are boys.
History boys are all boys, even if they're girls.
Yes.
Or whatever, however you choose to identify.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah,
A
very
little bit
happy
about
to be
yourself,
here.
Sally.
I am a sometimes a comedian, all around just funny gal.
Indeed.
A sometimes Twitch streamer, and I am in human resources by day, which is real fun.
Almost as good.
And I have a cat named Anya, and she's the ding best. I also, I used to be the vice president of Students United for Reproductive Justice at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So,
All right.
this
There you
is
go.
right up my alley.
Yeah.
I also, one of my favorite bits to do, like in just basic conversation, is to say, like, if I want people to pay attention to me, I'll be like, so telling an anecdote. Yeah, the other day I was crowning, and but I want that to stay as a bit, which is why I care about this topic in particular.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Another
I'll
fun
make
one
sure
is
never to use that bit either. That's your bit.
that's
Plus, when I
it's
do it,
fine.
it's gross.
It works though. It works
Yeah.
if you really want to command a room. Start off a story that way.
Yeah, it's a power move.
Or say, so I was in estrus the other day, and it's effective.
Yeah.
As long as it's just a goof, though.
Yeah. You also used to work at Planned Parenthood, right?
I did, yeah. I worked at Planned Parenthood of Southern Nevada, which is part of Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains. And I worked in their community outreach and education office. And we were mostly focused on lobbying every session that we could for comprehensive sex education, which is a thing that Nevada still does not have. So, that was our big focus when I was working there and also doing campus outreach.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
times. Obviously, we
It's-
did a lot of great works.
Indeed. Well, fighting for anything like that, I personally feel is a good thing. Which brings me to the introduction of this episode. We are doing basically the history of abortion, right? And I almost want to call this the incomplete history of abortion. It is in no way a totally complete history, right?
We don't have that kind of time.
We don't. We don't. And something I just want to get across right off the top is that we have an inherent bias here. We are all pro-choice. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm not interested in arguing with anyone. You know what you can do? You don't have to listen to us. And I think that's okay for you. My personal feelings in this realm is that I have a penis. And I do not have a uterus. So I personally feel that no one should even be asking me what my thoughts are on this particular subject because I have no frame of reference, right? I don't think any man does. Someone with a penis and not with a uterus. So I personally feel that there shouldn't be abortion law. It would be, there just wouldn't be any laws, about it because there's none having to do with, my penis, So
Yeah.
that's
If
my
only.
personal feeling with that right off the bat.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, Jerry, it's like when you don't have a frame of reference, it seems pretty absurd to be making choices on regulating these things. Right.
Yeah.
But if they are gonna ask, right, which they will,
Yeah.
they're gonna ask us what we think about this when it comes voting time, right? That's what they always say now, right? They try to scare us into voting, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that you have to at least know what you're going to vote for, right? Like what it means to vote a certain way, what the implications are, and that's sort of the point of this episode.
You know
what
what?
I mean?
You know what really, really sucks is the amount of women that are anti-choice too.
Right.
That's something that is really hard for me to grapple with. It's a lot easier to laugh at the idea of men. Well, I mean, laugh so you don't cry at men having opinions on any sort of reproductive issues. But there's just so many women that disappoint me, and I can't even begin to engage with them because they should know better.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm out of line, and if I am, Chris, just feel free to cut this out. But I almost, how there's kind of the adage that everyone should work in the service industry for a year.
Yeah,
'cause it'll
yeah,
give them
totally.
perspective. Maybe just everybody should be put in a position where they have to get an abortion just once, because I feel like if you're anti-choice and you don't have the means to have and raise a child, it might change your perspective on things. That's all I'm saying. But there's a lot of strings attached to that statement.
definitely
There's
get
a
what you're
lot
saying.
of strings.
Yeah.
I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Tyler
How-
Armentrout, pro forced
There's
abortions.
a full-blown umbilical cord attached to that. But
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
Make a matrix.
I'm
Put the
already-
boys in there too. You
there
put
you
them all
go.
in a matrix. Don't kill them, because if you die in VR, you die in real life. But you
Oh,
put them
yeah,
in
yeah.
there, and then you make them all think they're gonna have a baby, and they're I don't know, any case, whether it be age or financial standing or just emotional mental preparedness, and you'll see people when they're actually in that position maybe change their minds.
So what you're
I don't know.
insinuating is we need to create a virtual reality mind
Yeah.
sphere
Yeah.
that is indecipherable from reality.
Yeah.
That we put everybody in and make them feel all the suffering of everyone else in the world, so that they can understand how everyone else feels.
Precisely.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
into it.
Okay.
I think you're putting a lot of confidence into other people's ability for empathy.
Yeah.
Some people just don't have that.
Yeah,
I
that's
worry,
true.
but
And I think the people building these machines should have no empathy as well, because it would, it'd be hard. So they need to be complete sociopaths.
no,
Put us
a
in their
little
to-
emotionally
put her-
exhausting, you know?
Put them in there.
Taxing.
Yeah, it would be hard on people who are empathetic to build this machine that's going to create mass suffering.
Oh man, no, they unveil it at E3 and like like Cliffy B goes back to Epic and he comes out on stage and he's like Unreal Engine 5 abortion sim indistinguishable from reality in VR and it's like
And the best part is it's mandatory.
you're in it right now and you're all pregnant.
You're already there.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Isn't
Anyway,
that's kind of that's one of the not purposes, but I think that's the takeaway that like Alien is supposed to give men.
Oh yeah.
It's you're the ones getting fucked and impregnated.
Well,
and
Yeah, like
forced
violated.
to keep it. So I think that's one of the most interesting things about Alien. It's one of the first of its kind to really flip up that narrative.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, follow basic quarantine rules. Just follow them.
Yeah,
Especially
you
if
should've
there's
opened
aliens.
the
This
door.
all could have been avoided.
Yeah. Taught that damn robot how to feel.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I admire its purity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, abortion and contraceptives, they have existed since humankind has walked the earth. There are fossils. I don't mean fossils, but there's things that they figured out, like they'd put wax on the inside of the vagina as a contraceptive.
Quick
using,
sidebar:
like,
don't do that.
don't do that. No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's dangerous.
Not recommending all of these things.
Yeah.
So, but they
I can
have
just
been
see
tried
that
before.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why safe birth control should be easily available.
Yeah.
So you don't put wax in your
Yeah.
genitals.
Yeah.
It's like, honey, I don't want
unless you're
to
into
get
that.
pregnant. Put wax in your vagina. Put wax on the tip of your dick, motherfucker.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I was
Yeah.
like, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes way
Just
more
wax that
sense.
up.
Yeah.
Dip your wick,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a baby bell. You get on, peel it afterwards.
Like his
No,
baby
they
and
were-
woman.
It'll be so smooth when you take it off, though.
Yeah. Oh,
Ever use
yeah.
like a paraffin bath before on your feet?
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
I'm
for
vaguely
your
aware of the concept.
Now, within these old methods of abortion, there were these herbs that were used in the old days, and it's all just sort of like folk medicine, is what this is. There was tansy, pennyroyal, black cohosh, and the now extinct silphium, and they would use these herbs to basically force a miscarriage, things like this. Other ways were strenuous activity, and of course, trauma to the abdomen. These were all the old ways of
That's not funny.
abortion.
The classic fall down the stairs
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
They would give like violent massages to the abdomen too, to try to like force it out.
God damn.
My
Yeah.
cat has done that to me before. Only when my bladder is full, like just to get me up in the morning.
Yeah, something about cat. They know.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, they know.
Cats
They
know.
Okay, like if I press here, I get fed sooner.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. Having to hide around the corner at stomach height so you can pop out and try to scare the baby out.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No.
That's for hiccups.
I know, and I didn't get the memo. Now I got a son,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Did you
But your
try
wife
that?
doesn't have hiccups.
all the time.
You gotta throw out like an adzooks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, blah, 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 you know,
Yeah.
it's like you get out of there. I don't know.
Yeah. He tried a Jason mask. He tried all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
Got right up in there too with the mask and just didn't do anything. Right up in there.
Well, I tried the Jason mask, didn't do anything.
Peeked up the whole
Then I-
like
Well, I realized that he had no frame of reference, so then I made my wife's stomach watch all the all the Friday the 13th movies. Pardon me.
Put the
And,
headphones over the stomach.
with the
Yeah.
headphones over the stomach. Then tried it again, still nothing. But by then it had been 9 months, and he was
Too
out.
late. Yeah.
It's too late.
Big fan of Voorhees now.
But yeah, the opposite effect. He's like, I love those movies.
Those are great.
Yeah.
But there's actually coins from Cyrene, modern day Libya, I believe, that on the back of them there are actually stalks, the now extinct silphium.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of like fennel,
Oh.
is what it
Did
was.
it work? Or is
All
it
of
just
these
one of those
herbs.
things?
All of these herbs, if you basically like take too much or put them up the vagina, they can be poisonous. And
Yeah, that's
deadly.
that's the thing I'm thinking is it's like you basically take poison to the point that you miscarry.
Yes.
That's what that was.
It's
yeah,
like a
there was a woman-
chemotherapy kind of approach almost.
Yeah, yeah, right. There was a woman in like the late 1800s that died from ingesting pennyroyal oil. So don't do that.
So it's like it had to have been that, that probably killed a lot of people,
Yeah.
over the entire course of using those kind of herbs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So did
untold.
childbirth too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lot.
Yeah. A lot of people, they point to the ancient Greeks, to Hippocrates and the Hippocratic Oath, as we know, do no harm, that oath that all doctors take
Yes.
to this day. The thing about the Hippocratic Oath is it's changed a lot over the years. And, the original Hippocratic Oath also said that surgery was forbidden. Because it was a bad idea back then to cut somebody open and try to put them back together again.
Fair.
It
fair.
just
I knew that from Hugh Laurie on House MD.
House MD.
House
House
MD.
MD.
Yeah.
You're familiar with House MD?
No,
Fucking stupid. Sorry, guys.
I specifically remember it was in one of my history classes. They had an image of like early attempted blood transfusions, and they just have like almost like like the for the fireplace you get the air moving. It was like
Bellows.
one of the,
Bellows.
Bill, yeah.
it was a bellows full of like sheep's blood, and they're just trying their best.
Yeah.
And clearly the technology just wasn't there yet.
There's ways
So,
that
yeah,
we
I
learn how
can say-
things don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
so
Trial
surgery
and
back
error.
in the they're like, you pull it all out, you put it all back in, it'll work itself out. Just jump up and down after we sew you up, and it should all just kind of settle back into place.
Yeah.
But not quite the case.
Aristotle had this to say as far as abortion went. Quote, "It must be practiced on it before it has developed sensation and life, for the line between lawful and unlawful abortion will be marked by the fact of having sensation and being alive." End quote. Now, what he's talking about here is something he talks about a lot in his philosophy, which is biographical life, not necessarily biological life, right? It's a lot like in the Jewish faith. They believe that when you take your first breath, that is the beginning of life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's from the beginning of beginning to end. Like when I tell you guys stories on the show, it's from when they were born to when they die, right? That's biographical life. You can't perceive of life when you're dead and, when you're not born, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you don't, the one thing I've always said about the, when do you believe life begins argument is that I think that to point it at a specific moment is sort of ridiculous because scientifically that doesn't exist. So in a weird way, like the way Aristotle's talking, I mean, it almost seems like you do legally probably have to have lines somewhere, right? But I think it has to come up to a lot of like decision and of when that is. But like you're saying is like as a man, like I feel that that's not my decision to make,
Yeah.
because it is gray area. It's not black and white. Like to say that life begins at conception or what life begins at birth. I mean, life began 6 billion years ago. That's when life began, and it's been a constant, ongoing thing about life. Giving birth, and it's all so connected through biology and evolution that to say that there's a specific moment just seems archaic to me.
Right.
Is that
Well, and
fair?
you have to ask yourself, you have to ask yourself too, if this is a scientific question or if this is more of a philosophic question.
It's both in a
Yes.
sense. It's a philosophical question because morality is inherently philosophical, right? What the right and wrong is philosophical,
Yeah.
you know, and there can be scientific basis for those things, and there should be. But ultimately, a lot of philosophy comes down to sort of cultural belief, and that's what makes this subject so difficult. You know, being such a large divide.
Well, and then how do you legislate something that is mostly based off like a philosophical thought?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that's
there's
that's
the
what
rub.
I mean that's what starts happening later on.
Well, that's kind of
but-
more like when, as somebody who doesn't believe in the Bible, you know, like I do believe there is right and wrong, but these things are complicated in gray area, and as societally we have to understand as a group, we have to agree on what these things like. Of course, I think murder's bad. I don't believe in all 10 commandments. You know,
There's a
10
lot of
commandments
shit
doesn't mention rape, for
yeah,
example.
a lot of
you know?
shit that it leaves out, yeah.
I'm big on the graven images command.
Yeah.
And I use that in my everyday life very frequently. You know, I'm okay with graven images, just not of the Lord.
Yeah.
Right.
And my neighbor has a TV that's just slightly bigger than mine, and I want it. I wish it was
You've been doing some coveting.
Yep.
Oh,
I've been covetous.
oh, that's bad. Slippery slope.
Yeah,
Slippery
they'd be
slope to
murdering people
murder.
after this. Yeah, abortion wasn't really even looked down upon, really. There's not a lot of trace of it really being looked down upon or being illegal until the Christian era, of course. And that was more because during that time, during the Christian era, you know, there's a lot of reasons for this, but Christians just do not like women very much.
I've
know,
noticed
like-
that. I've actually, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
The first
Interesting.
first chapter is pretty damning.
Yeah?
Right. But you know, there was the Malefius, right? Maleficarum, which is the book on witches, right? Which is an incredibly damaging book towards women that really went after like midwives and people that took the birthing like power away from other women, right? Like for a long time, it was women attending to women as far as birthing goes, right? And at some point, like they were like, nah, there are a bunch of kooks that are doing this, and they're witches.
They're
you know?
witches. Number one lady
And-
problem: witchcraft.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so they were like, you know who's like the craziest witches with all of their potions and spells that help women in these situations where a lot of women die in childbirth simply because a man was there? I'll get to that here in a second. It's these midwives. They're definitely the witches, right? So that it
These
really went
midwives are the
after.
problem.
Yeah. That book definitely went after midwives more so than
That's insane.
really any other group. But honestly, though, it really wasn't until the 19th century that even Catholicism didn't regard pregnancy before quickening or ensoulment, like termination of pregnancy before that time, as an abortion. You know, quickening is when like the baby moves, right?
The baby
Right.
moves because they've fought another baby in one-on-one sword combat, not on hallowed ground, and now they're gaining their abilities and you know their skills.
Yeah.
Isn't that the quickening?
I was going
from
Highlander 2. Yeah, Highlander 2. Is that Highlander 2? Yeah.
Yeah, Highlander 2 is the
the
subtitle
quickening?
is the quickening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either that or they just got real spooked because someone made them watch Friday the 13th way too early. Yeah. Got real spooked.
They're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Just trying to escape after that.
Yeah. There were multiple cases. And you know what I forgot to do at the head of the show? I just want to acknowledge my sources real quick before I get too much deeper.
Chris cut it to make it seem like he did it at the beginning.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
I have a couple here. The first is Unwell Women by Eleanor Cleghorn. Really good book about the medical field and the misdiagnoses and things about how they used to treat women in the medical field. Eye-opening book. Challenge you to read it, because it is not a fun book to read. I also got Abortion and the Law in America by Mary Ziegler. This basically just goes blow by blow through every single abortion Supreme Court case that there was in this country thus far. Fascinating stuff. A lot of it is outside of the scope of this episode, but fascinating stuff. I also got another book, Abortion and Constitutional Law by Matt Buig. And this book is straight up like the explanation of the case, and then it plays audio of the arguments and rebuttal and all that stuff, and then the court decision. That's just bare bones stuff, you know what I mean? And the last one, which blew me away, and there's one documentary coming out on HBO, I think, later on this month or something like that, but it's The Story of Jane by Laura Kaplan. Amazing book. We'll talk about them later, but yeah, I'm gonna save what all that's about until later. Amazing book, though. See the movie, read the book. It was in the 19th century that shit really hit the fan as far as understanding of gynecology with women, which was completely not even understood beforehand. There was the so-called father of gynecology, and his name was Dr. James Marion Sims.
Bad dad. Bad dad.
Yeah. Also the father of molestation. No, I'm sure I don't know. Chances are it's tough. Probably not. I don't know.
That would have been a priest.
Yeah, right.
They've been already doing that forever.
Oh, yeah,
As
yeah,
a
yeah.
priest, he wouldn't know his way around what's going on down there. He's like, I got the wrong one. Give me the one with the short hair.
Oh my God.
Dr. James Marion Sims, he worked on enslaved people. That was his main thing. He had a hospital, and slave owners would bring their slaves to him, and he would operate on them. And there were a lot of women before this time would suffer from a fistula, which can happen rectally or vaginally. And it could happen for a myriad of reasons. A really difficult childbirth could do it. Really bad malnutrition and work conditions could do it. Of course, chillingly, rape can also do it. What happens is it's a hole that is created between the bladder and basically like the vagina, right? Mm-hmm. That whole area there. And urine leaks through, right? Through that area, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you smell bad. It's incontinence, right? Mm-hmm. And it drives people to depression and eventually suicide in a lot of cases.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. I'd be pretty bummed.
Yeah.
It can also lead to terrible infections and a myriad of other issues. It can also lead to future infertility. So it's a mess all around.
Yeah.
As one would imagine when there's a hole there.
Yeah. of just stuff leaking through. Mm-hmm. He operated on 12 enslaved women with this condition, and only 3 of their names actually survive. There was Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy. Mm-hmm. And Anarcha especially, she had both a vesiovaginal fistula and a rectovaginal fistula. Both incredibly painful, extremely horrific, honestly. He didn't use any sort of anesthetic at all. No anesthesia, nothing like that. Because it was thought during this time that black women actually felt less pain than anyone else.
That's just racism.
Yes, yes, it is. Good
quite
job,
literally.
Tyler.
Yeah, you got that right, bud.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think that there was, like, any... They didn't do a survey.
No,
You know what I mean?
No.
That's not coming from black women.
Oh, no.
It's coming
Oh,
from
no, no,
white
no.
men telling you that.
White
Yeah.
guys hoarding all the pain pills.
Yeah. He built a hospital called the Surgical Infirmary for Negroes for the slaves, that their owners brought over. And it began with 4 beds, but it was so successful that he added a second floor, doubling its capacity to 8 beds. It has actually been called the first women's hospital in history.
Oh, that's very curious.
It's a dark, bad place that it comes from. Like, the history of gynecology is incredibly dark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And recent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, lacking adequate birth control, women generally had a high rate of childbirth, which increased the overall rate for complications and things like fistulas, right? He remarked in his autobiography that, quote, "If there were anything I hated, it was investigating the organs of the female pelvis."
If there's anything that I hate, it's having the organs of my female pelvis investigated. So
Yeah.
I get it. That's one of the things that I dislike the most.
Yeah.
It seems like
indeed.
he was in the wrong career path then, though.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
Neither
actually,
of us
too.
want to be here.
He could have just gone into like dentistry or something. I mean,
Yeah.
But
come
on the other side, if he was super into it, that would also kind of be a bit
That would be-
problematic.
yes, yeah, that's there's a gray area there that has to be covered. So
Now we're quickly approaching
exist in that space.
yeah,
my feelings towards every male gynecologist ever. It's like, what's going on there? What's going on?
I've had one.
just-
I've had one. My very first gynecologist when I was 14 was he was actually, so I found out that he was like someone I went to, like I was, freshman in high school. He was the father of a kid that had bullied me a bunch in middle school too. So
Jesus.
I definitely switched gynecologists.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean,
double
real
whammy.
fast.
Uncomfortable.
Anyway, shout out to I'm not going to say his name, but
Yeah.
anyway. So,
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
but Tina Pfeiffer, gynecologist in Las Vegas, she's amazing. She looks like Michelle Obama. She wears an ankh. Love her.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Lucy, she almost died from these medical experiments he was performing on them, because they were experiments that bordered on straight up like Josef Mengele, Nazi doctor type stuff. Again, all without anesthetic. There's no way they could provide consent at this time, seeing as they were enslaved. During the procedure, there were a handful of doctors standing, quote unquote doctors standing around him. And she nearly died from sepsis after he left a sponge in her urethra and bladder.
Oh my God.
She survived. During the procedure, patients were completely naked, of course, right? Because they were viewed not as people. Again, they thought that they felt about as much pain as a rabbit or a dog.
What does that even mean? I mean, it's
Yeah.
horrible because they're comparing humans to animals, not. But also, are they saying that rabbits and dogs don't feel pain?
yeah.
Like, have
I
they
guess a
ever
lesser
seen a dog in
degree.
pain?
Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense logically.
No.
There's a lot of roads paved to hell, like, going on here. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
this hospital isn't to help women. This is to take slaves and make them good to go back to getting raped.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
And-
back to slaving.
Yeah, back to slaving. Whatever slaving might need to be done. And in addition to that, like, this doctor would have a podcast about him now, true crime one, leaving with that kind of just kind of malpractice. But and then also, like, did he torture a bunch of rabbits? He's like, they didn't even seem like they were in that much pain when I did this
Yeah.
to them. Like,
I mean,
I mean,
yeah. some kind of crazy.
The reality is, like, rabbits are prey animals, and I've heard the sound they make,
Yeah.
when they get eaten, and that sounds fucked up. Like at the zoo, and they give rabbits to the jaguar or cheetah, or it's not a cheetah. I think it's a jaguar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Chris
heard the
always
sound
makes it
that
for
a
the
dog
feeding.
makes too when it like just isn't getting enough attention.
Dogs especially,
Yeah.
it's like,
So that just doesn't make sense.
I don't
like-
believe it, any of it, really.
No,
like, the
no.
thesis is wrong. And while they were stripped naked, they were asked to perch on their knees and bend forward onto their elbows, so their heads rested on their hands, right? Now, Lucy endured an hour-long surgery. She was screaming and crying out in pain the whole time, while the dozen other doctors looked on. Because the idea is that this didn't only affect enslaved women, it affected all women, right?
Mm-hmm.
All women, or not all women, but,
the potential
it didn't
to
matter.
affect all
Yeah.
women.
it affected all women, right? So the plan is to figure out how to do it and then operate on white women with anesthesia.
Safely,
right?
yeah.
Oh, that's so
Comfortably.
fucked up.
In private.
That was the plan all along. Keep that in mind. Because he didn't pay attention to any sort of ethical rules at the time, he would overwork his nurses, and they would go to sleep after 12 hours of this stuff is going on. And he taught the other patients to help him in what he was doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like they were forced to also take part in this torture, you know what I mean?
That's fucked up. I think it's very telling that sort of the history of gynecological science is rooted in not just misogyny, but racism.
Oh, yes. From 1845 to 1849, he conducted experimental surgery on each of them multiple times. He operated on Anarcha, who had the both types of fistulas, an astonishing 30 times. 30 times. Mm-hmm. He was trying to test out a new material for suture, right? He was trying to sew the hole closed. And he found out that silver suture worked, whereas others would lead to infection that he would have to fix. And then, he viewed what was going on as if he was, I mean, it's pretty crazy, hard to listen to when they go into detail about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time you doing it now.
Yeah.
I am clenching so intensely right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It was declared a success, though. He also is credited with inventing the speculum. He was the first man to ever sort of look directly inside of a woman's vagina with the speculum. And as it's absolutely changed women's health forever, and it was also just invented in this
horrific circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a pleasant origin story for the speculum, but that's about as horrific as it can get.
Exactly. Yeah, it's whatever you thought it could be, it's pretty much either as bad or maybe worse than you're imagining. I got spaghetti
you
on
can
my
put
lap.
googly
and
eyes
cheese.
on it.
Huh?
On the speculum?
Yeah, it helps.
But what if they get lost in there? That's what I'm wondering.
You can't.
Not
that
lost.
speculum's just a mascot. That's just for
you don't
on
put it in
camera
there.
appearances.
Yeah.
Shows up at maybe you get one with a razor on the inside so you can cut ribbons at a new McDonald's that's opening. It doesnn't actually go in.
Are you saying a
It's
razor
just-
on the inside of a speculum?
Well, so it could double as scissors when you're cutting the ribbon at a new McDonald's. He's like a mascot for the whole thing. But the normal ones wouldn't have the eyes or the razors. Just just the character. Maybe, you get some felt going on there, go full Muppet with it.
You just don't want to mix them up, I guess.
Don't mix them up. You got to have two different boxes. Get a P-Touch. Make sure that they both have everything has labels.
It's like at a pediatrician's office, like when they have here, you can look at the thing that I'm going to use. Here's the fun version of it, so it's not as scary.
It's like a plushie toy.
But it's way scarier, actually.
A plush-covered speculum with googly eyes sounds fucking horrifying.
Right? I bet that's a thing, though.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I bet that's a thing. Good gracious.
If there's a software that you need to use to learn gynecological training, if he's not the paper clip, the clippy.
Oh yeah. Microsoft Word.
Were you trying to say pap smear?
Wait. Were you trying to say pap smear? Because you definitely just said pap smear.
I did SH it, and I know it's smear.
Were you trying to say pap smear?
I have been drinking.
Pap smear.
And
Schmear.
Shane.
You got
I'm well aware of what my accent is, and but I know what it is.
Now, it should also come as no surprise that Sims also believed that African Americans were less intelligent than white people.
Well, there you go.
And he thought it was because their skulls grew too quickly around their brain. And so when he would operate on African Americans during childbirth, he actually used a shoemaker's awl to pry the bones apart to loosen the skull. Oh, no. It was a 100% death rate procedure. And he was like, I don't understand what's going on. And it's like, you're a fucking psycho is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when I don't know, it happened in the 19th century when the doctors had no idea what they were doing and they were racist as fuck. When, I guess, I don't know, it's still sort of going on. It should also come as no surprise that Sims was one of the most famous and venerated physicians in the country at the time. A statue of him stood in New York City and was removed in 2018.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Did it get forcibly removed?
Yeah.
Here we go again, destroying American history.
Yeah.
Right?
Over and over and over again, destroying the important culture of shitty, trash, racist gynecologists.
Those
our heritage.
Those statues are important to learn our history when you don't know how to read.
Yeah.
It's true.
Indeed.
It's true.
You're like, well, is this guy? What did he do? I'm sure he's important.
Yeah. Now, in 1919, Soviet Russia became the first country to legalize abortion for any reason. Iceland in 1935 became the next country, and Sweden in 1938. They were the first ones to legalize all forms of abortion. And actually, in Nazi Germany, 1935, a law permitted abortions for those deemed hereditary ill.
Oh, I can guess what that means.
Do you know what that means? While women considered Aryan were specifically prohibited from having abortions.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. That's sort of a microcosm of what Nazi Germany was supposed to be. Right?
Yeah.
Oh man, just top to bottom genocide with these guys.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're not gonna leave no stone unturned.
No. Leave no uterus unpeaked.
Right.
Peeped?
Now, unsafe medicines, like taking misoprostol to induce a miscarriage, also the insertion of non-surgical instruments such as knitting needles and clothes hangers into the uterus were also used in this sort of time in America.
I will say misoprostol is still used under much safer circumstances now, like whether that is for, like that's one of the ingredients found in the commonly known abortion, medical abortions. as misoprostol, but it's also used after someone's had a miscarriage on their own to clear the tissue that isn't clearing on its own from the uterus. And it's a powerful medication, but it can absolutely be used correctly.
Yeah. Well, this thing when
Under
these things are
supervision.
totally, when they're totally unsupervised, unregulated, and people
Then
are
it's
this can cause
bad.
real problems. That's where these problems come from.
Yep.
Yeah, people were just using it at home, not knowing what the dosage was supposed to be or anything like that. And
It's a powerful. Yeah, it's a powerful medication. So
it really is. It really is.
Well, good thing no one's coming to make it so people have to do it in their own home without knowing the dosage anymore. We just have medical professionals in safe settings doing it in perpetuity in the United States.
every state, every county.
state.
Every state, every county.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, such methods, like we just talked about, are rarely used in countries where surgical abortion is legal and available, right? I mean, we're just joking about that, right? Availability is also a prime factor here.
Yeah.
Now, early illegal abortionists in the United States of America, they were shitty. They were shitty people. Like what Tyler was saying earlier, ones who may have enjoyed it a little too much, which is nuts to think about.
Yeah.
Or would want sexual favors to do the abortion. That was definitely a thing.
Yeah. Fucking course it is. God damn it.
Yeah.
Guarantee a repeat customer after that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
They're like
that joke.
they're just trying to loosen the lid on the pickle jar. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
Okay, you can cut that. That's probably not very appropriate.
The pickle jar.
Sometimes they were even found out to be drunk when the women showed up. It was they also perpetuated financial exploitation as well by charging a shit ton, for it when they knew damn well that they couldn't pay for it. So here comes the sexual favor bit, that kind of thing. That was very common. Or they weren't very good at what they were doing because a lot of colleges didn't teach how to perform an abortion. So you'd have to learn it from somebody else. And countless women bled to death in hotel rooms because that happened, right? There's an infamous photo, which I have avoided somehow this long. I don't want to look it up, but there was one that it was taken and shown around by pro-choice people, basically saying, like, this is what we're going to go back to, if Roe v. Wade is repealed, right?
Right.
And it's disturbing, right? It's of a woman that bled to death while her and her boyfriend tried to perform an abortion in a hotel room. Didn't work. Tragic stuff.
Yeah.
And in order to obtain a legal abortion during this time, women would actually have to go in front of medical boards, like all these like doctors and like in like at this panel.
Assuming these doctors are male.
Oh yeah. Women were barred from the medical field
Yeah.
for a long time, a shockingly long time. And she would have to go and argue why she needed the abortion. And the only real answer that they would accept was they were going to kill themselves if they actually did give birth. So it'd have to be that or nothing.
Yeah.
But then what happens at the time if a woman goes in front of a bunch of doctors, says she's going to kill herself? Then she's she's not just seeking an abortion, she's announcing that she's hysterical, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So even if she gets the abortion, she's still screwed.
Yeah.
Oh,
because now
absolutely.
she's dealing with all that. Like, and
Yeah.
Blackwell's
talked
is
about
still
that in-
open at this time.
Oh, yeah. That's the episode I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So you could easily get an abortion and then they toss you into Blackwell's. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's sort of a reality when you do decide to do something like that. Some of the illegal doctors, they could go to jail for what they were doing, and a lot of them, the stirrups because a lot of them didn't have like the leg stirrups. They would straight up use belts and ropes as stirrups, which is, I mean,
That's a horrifying
again,
image.
I can't imagine, but that's got to be horrifying, you know, to be tied to like presumably a bed or something.
Yeah.
My God. Now for some good news.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
God.
The Janes. Jane was a collective. It came out of various other movements in the early 60s. The Civil Rights Movement, the Women's Liberation Movement, the Anti-Vietnam War Movement. Heather Booth was the founder of Jane. What Jane was, it was a collective that helped women find abortions. So, like, they put up ads that just said, pregnant? Call Jane. And there was a number. And, like, women would call it, and they'd ask for Jane, and Jane would be like, what do you want? You know? And so they would have to say it. They would even ask, like, are you sure? You know? They would come in for counseling. And all this stuff was done by women for women, right? So it was really ethical. Like, they thought about, like, everything that would go into it, and like provided full counseling, all that stuff. And did they charge money? Yes, they did. But here's the deal, because the abortion doctors that they got hooked up with, you know, they were doing this illegally and they demanded money, right? And so like they would like haggle with them too, and they talked them down from $500 at first to $100, and some women couldn't even afford that, right? And they got to a point where they would get them an abortion no matter what, right? If they could pay or could not pay. But what they figured is if they could pay, they should. Because, well, people that were more well off could help those who couldn't afford it. And even when you pay for something like that, you're taking part in it. And it is your, right? It is your decision, something you're taking part in. It's not something that is being done to you, right?
You might say it's your choice.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, and some of the doctors would have punch cards, so if you could always pick up one for your friend. You get 10, then you get like a sandwich, toaster, another abortion. And so it's nice because, you know, it's just a good way of showing your loyalty, you know.
This is one of those things that I feel like people think Planned Parenthood actually does have.
Oh, yeah.
They don't. No.
They don't.
Right.
Well,
Right.
They provide a lot of family planning services. That is not one of them.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah.
No, yeah, a lot of people feel like it's a get out of jail free card, and it just isn't.
It's not.
You know? It sort of started with like they'd, you know, meet up with the woman, they'd blindfold her, and then drive her to whatever place. They'd do the procedure, and then she would leave, and then there was counseling before and after, right? But once they found out that their main doctor wasn't a real doctor,
Oh, God.
then they were like, well, if he can do it, so can we.
Yeah.
So they demanded that he show them how to do it. And like basically armed themselves with like the best weapon of liberation that there is to control your own, you know, fecundity, right? And yeah, a bunch of them learned how to do it, and it was self-sufficient. They didn't need a doctor. You know what I mean?
How safe was it as far as...
It was incredibly safe. In fact, they had a better success rate than hospitals that were legally doing it in New York in the late 60s, early 70s.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's taking it back to the midwives.
Right.
Like the entire thing with midwives, women taking care of other women. It's always proven to be a pretty good deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Turns out it's the most ethical thing to do. You know, they had the death rate. So their death rate was actually lower than what the hospital's death rate for this was, and it's actually 0.00073%, which is, I think, lower than like getting your appendix removed or things like this. It's abysmally low. When they say people can die, it's like, well, yeah, but people die during routine surgery all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was incredibly safe. They made it safe. Like they had all these things. They had a front where people would come, and then they would take them to the place, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all, like, women of all different walks of life. You know, you had, like, you know, these quote-unquote radical feminists, you know, with, like, housewives, you know? And, you know, women of color with, you know, super white women, you know?
Yeah.
And they were, you know, united under one cause. It's a pretty inspiring story, honestly.
Oh, I bet you some old white dudes ruined it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So what happens next? Because I have an idea.
Yeah. The actual procedure, the DNC procedure, takes about 15 minutes, or at least took about 15 minutes. That's what they could get it down to. And only used local anesthetic, so they weren't, like, completely out, you know? It was something that they were, you know, conscious for, awake for. You know, they'd stop if they had to stop, you know, and, you know, because nobody's the same, right? That's one thing I kind of irks me about this debate, is there's a lot of generalizations going on.
Yeah.
You know, from pro-lifers that just can't be true for everybody.
Also, DNCs are not only used for abortions.
Right.
They are also used for tissue removal from natural miscarriages.
Ah, yeah, see?
And ectopic pregnancies, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So.
But yeah, some old white guys did fuck it up. The cops had kind of been on their tail, and somebody, you know, because they'd encourage you to bring, like, a sister or a friend with you. And one woman brought her sister-in-law. And when they were doing, like, the initial counseling, and her sister-in-law didn't like what she had heard, so she told the cops. And the cops found out where they were and straight up, like, kicked the door down while they were working. And they, like, quickly were, like, putting shit away and stuff. And they kept, like, saying and yelling, like, where's the man? Where's the man here? And they were like, what are you talking about? You know?
I
like it's
am
from
no
Always.
man.
Yeah.
It's like Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They'll be like, it's like, where's your boss? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, now this is a strange bank.
That seems like an opportunity to be like, oh, he went out the back door super fast.
Yeah, he went that way, actually.
Yeah.
If you leave now, you might be able to catch up with him.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he went off that way. Yeah, totally.
He was a middle-aged white guy with golf clubs.
Yeah.
Get him.
He was medium height with brown hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were talking about it, you know, because yeah, they 7 of them were arrested, and they were facing straight up 110 years in jail. And like they were talking about it, like, you know, while they're getting grilled by these cops and stuff. They talked about, you know, how many abortions does it take before a woman becomes infertile? And one of them straight up was like, I don't know, 12, 15? And like one of them's like, nobody gets that many. Like in Latin America they do, because that's their only form of birth control. And it's like, fuck, man. That's fucking crazy.
Also, that sounds like the setup to like a really tasteless joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like worried it was going that way.
Yeah.
From the bad guys.
Yeah. They also were like, you know, it's almost impossible to do a safe abortion after 28 weeks. Like, flat out almost impossible. Like, when people would cross the 20-week threshold, they would almost be like, sorry, you know what I mean? There were ways to have a miscarriage, but they weren't like set up for that, so they'd have to send them to the hospital, and it was super risky because they could be like, who showed you how to do this, you know? And, you know, some of them would get scared, you know, and tell them, you know? It's super risky to do, and they didn't really want to do that.
Yeah, again, that same white guy that was running off.
Yeah.
That's who told me.
Yeah. The one-armed man did it.
I just keep on imagining
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the golf club. I see Matthew Modine from fucking Stranger Things.
Okay, that's what I've been picturing this
clubs.
entire time too.
Because he's like a middle-aged white, like he is like the OG middle-aged white guy, like Papa with a suit, like running down the street.
Having just finished the new season, that is what I've been picturing, without a doubt, this entire time. Is Matthew Modine.
It's a pretty good pick, pretty good casting pick.
Yeah.
So they went to court for it, you know. The prosecutor was like asking, what do you call it? When they ask a witness questions. Anyway, he was asking this woman
questioning.
Questioning. Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yes.
Like maybe a deposition.
Yeah, asking one of them. He was like, "Did any of these women touch you down there?" And they all laughed, like, from where they were sitting.
That's great.
Like, you couldn't fucking bring yourself to say the words vagina.
Did one of these women touch your,
Yeah. Your hoo-ha?
your hoo-ha? Your cahooter? I don't know. That sounds...
That's a little too far for these guys.
Yeah.
The one in front.
But then the case got thrown out, and they walked free. Why? Because in 1973, just as this was happening, Roe v. Wade was handed down. The decision was handed down, and it made abortion legal in this country. Now, do you guys know who Jane Roe was?
I do.
Sally does.
By the time that that trial concluded, she was far past the point of having given birth to the child that she had initially, been attempting to get an abortion done. So yeah, she did not have one. Not that time, at least.
So she just has a kid who gets the shitty birthday presents. Like,
Jesus.
we don't gotta pretend, Mom. We don't gotta pretend.
She was put up. Her daughter was put up for adoption.
I know.
Okay.
Levity. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jane Roe is a pseudonym, and they didn't pick Jane Doe because in this case as well there were the Does, right? Different part of the story. This whole thing, this could honestly be its own episode. But I want you to know about Jane Roe. Her real name was Norma Leah Nelson McCorvey. She had an abusive upbringing when she was a child. Her father left when she was 13. Her parents were divorced, of course. She and her older brother were raised by her alcoholic mother, Mary, who was very violent. Norma's mother, she was raised Pentecostal, which are like the snake handling, speaking in tongues, crazy Christians. Norma's father, before they were divorced, actually led her mother into being a Jehovah's Witness, right? So trade one for another, I suppose. Understandably, she lashed out as a kid. She had trouble with the law. It started at the age of 10 when she robbed the cash register at a gas station and ran away to Oklahoma City with a friend.
That's what happens when you don't get Christmas, man. You don't get Christmas. You gotta make those presents happen somehow. That's all I'm saying.
All the Jewish kids out there are like,
Yeah, that was my first thought.
Hanukkah presents. I'm just saying. Jehovah's Witness.
You didn't think about
Jehovah's
Jewish
Witnesses
kids.
don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, I get that.
all right,
Or birthdays.
that's fair.
Birthdays,
Yeah, they do.
Me too.
Yeah.
They actually tricked a hotel worker into letting them rent a room where they actually stayed for 2 days. And when the maid walked in and found them, her and her friend were kissing. Her female friend were kissing.
Nice.
This is something that was
Sorry,
going to
that was
come up later on
inappropriate.
in her life.
No, you were saying that's what the maid was saying.
That's what the maid saw. I don't know. When she was taken to court for this, she was declared a ward of the state.
Was she?
And
I mean, she's a
judge-
child. Yeah, I
Huh?
guess. But she wasn't taken to court just for kissing, right?
No.
It was
For
the
running
running
away
away,
from
the
home.
break. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to make it seem
It
that
just
way.
went right into that.
I know. she was sent to a Catholic boarding school, which I'm sure didn't help.
It straightened her out.
Yeah, she does say that it was a happier part in her life, but she also says that during this particular part of her life, there's just some cloudiness with this. She was then sent to live with her mother's cousin, who was a man who raped her basically every day for 3 weeks before she left. And when her mother found out, her mother's cousin said that she was lying, of course, and he got away with it.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed. In 1963, when Norma was 16, she married a guy named Woody McCorvey. Woody. She later she left him because he was abusive and he assaulted her. She moved in with her mother and gave birth to her first child, Melissa, in 1965. And soon after, she began identifying as a lesbian. And again, she probably always was a lesbian. But again, 1965, you know what I mean? It would have been dangerous for her living in Texas to be that way. So, of course, when you reach an impasse like that, she developed an alcohol and drug problem. And she stated that she was going on a weekend trip to visit 2 friends, and she left her baby with her mother. But when she had returned, her mother had replaced the baby with a baby doll, and she was reported to the police as having abandoned her baby.
Jane was? Or
Norma. Yeah, Jane Doe.
Norma, sorry.
Norma. Jane Roe. And then, the police came and had to take her out of the house, and no one would tell her where her daughter was for weeks. They finally let her visit her own child after 3 months. And after that, she was allowed to move back in with her mother. Now, one day, her mother actually woke her up after a long day of work, and she told Norma to sign these documents that were presented as insurance papers. And so she did without reading them. And turns out they were adoption papers. And it basically gave her mother custody over Melissa. And Norma was then kicked out of the house at that point.
I feel like this is something that happened a lot around that time, too. Like, custody was really, really easy to pass on. But it was also really easy to just, like, take over.
Yeah, and, like, coerce.
Yeah. Rules were way less rigid. With the born children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, with the born children, way less rigid.
Yeah.
In this case, though, it was actually not a horrible deal because she was able to keep the doll that she was tricked with earlier.
It was a good doll.
It was a high quality. It was handmade. A lot of love went into it.
They didn't chintz on the doll.
Its eyes did that thing where they open and close when you move it up and down.
Yeah, when you move it back and forth.
It's like a real baby.
Yeah. Doesn't it?
Pretty much. Practically the same thing.
Made of glass, but
Yeah.
other than that.
Yeah, it's fine. So after she was thrown out of her mother's house, the following year, she became pregnant for a second time. She gave birth to a baby that she named Jennifer that was placed up for adoption. In 1968, at the age of 21, Norma became pregnant for a 3rd time. Now, according to Norma, friends at the time advised her that she should assert falsely that she had been raped by a group of black men in order to get the abortion. To get a legal abortion, right? And under that Texas law, it would have been legal, which is fucking... I mean, you can just see the layers of ideology in there, and it's like, oh god, that is disgusting.
Did they have to be... Like, if she went and said a bunch of white guys raped me,
well, that would have been a beautiful, precious baby that needs to be protected.
Yeah. The circumstances
She should
were
have made
wrong,
the best
but...
of a bad situation.
Right, right. It's a gift from God if you look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, and seeing as it was...
Change your perspective.
you know, there's the racial element to it. You know, the Texas lawmakers say it wasn't racially motivated, but the law was called the You Ruined Her law. And
God. Jesus Christ.
They kind of tipped their hat on that one.
Yeah.
Tip their Stetsons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a little too more revealing than they may have intended.
Yeah.
Right. Also, what a classic line. Oh, the Texas lawmakers denied the racial aspect of it.
It seems like I hear that every day.
Yeah,
in
that
the
sounds
news.
really familiar.
Yeah. She couldn't get a legal one under the Texas law, so she attempted to obtain an illegal abortion. But just as she was getting there, like right before they had just raided it.
No.
And like straight up police tape and shit, she was like, "Oh fuck, I gotta get the hell out of here." You know? Yeah. She was then, because the thing is like time is so against you. You know what I mean? You have to like, you better like take care of this shit fucking as soon as you can, because it gets to a certain point, you know. Even if you've been fed a pack of lies and misinformation from other places that we'll get to later in this story, if it's too late and you figure out that it's all bullshit, they can't perform an abortion on you despite what some may believe. They just can't. That's just the truth. So she was actually referred to these attorneys, Linda Coffey and Sarah Weddington. And they were actually looking for a pregnant woman who was seeking an abortion because they wanted to take this case to the Supreme Court. And the thing is like Sally was saying earlier, the legal system just takes so long that she ended up having to bring the baby to term. I don't know, like, define irony. I don't know, you know, who is the legal system protecting? Yeah, I don't know. Like, it just... When you hear about that, it's just like, oh my God, that is crazy. You know?
I feel like that is something that a lot of people don't realize, that, you know, the child in question, you know, was actually, like, no abortion happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I genuinely did not know that. Maybe this is like completely like, it's not quite off topic, but in the book Freakonomics, there's talk about how because of you know, the codification or you know, passing of Roe versus Wade, the guy who wrote the book said, statistically speaking, women who have abortions, typically one of the reasons why is because they can't, you know, there's a myriad reasons why they can't, right? Whether it's financial, whether it's a product of rape or incest. There's all these reasons why the kid's not going to have a good upbringing, and kids with bad upbringings are more likely to essentially to continue the cycle and you know, either move into lives of crime, because if the parents are poor, the kids are going to be poor. You know, and there's a whole lot of sociological stuff working in there too. But in the book they say that because of Roe versus Wade, there's essentially a bunch of people that were of lower means who are able to not end up having kids that they couldn't take care of, and therefore an entire generation of criminals were essentially thwarted before they could even be born.
Or
and that's in that book.
Or they filled out the ranks of our armed services. Yeah.
Or that. I mean,
disaffected, you know, boys that are angry, you know, join the army. You know, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, you know, from what I've heard, anyone that's ever been in the army is like, yeah, there's a lot of disaffected kids, man, that go to the army to get structure, you know what I mean? And some of them come out better for it. But yeah,
they're like, I joined the army to get away from my abusive father. And,
well, I mean,
rather go to a battlefield.
I do inherently believe that there are many laws that are designed to try to fill the ranks of the United States Armed Services.
Yeah.
For example, I think one of the reasons a lot of people don't actually want, you know, higher education to be free is because it doesn't give them the incentive to join the military.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
I absolutely believe that's true.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, I mean, we can get into this later, but I do think that there's a lot of generally on the right, generally Republican, who I don't think give a fuck about abortions. I think they give a fuck about the money they're making in from the Forever War that was, helped created by George W. Bush.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I also think the managing, and this really reaches across the aisle. I think both sides have a fixation on trying to battle about the same three problems again and again and again, so they don't actually have to do anything.
Right. Again,
every
are
election
they trying to
cycle.
scare us into voting sometimes? Sometimes I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why don't you just do the thing that we put you there to do, you know?
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating. Now, the press, of course, wanted to know why Jane Roe wanted an abortion in the first place. And she was like, it's simple. I was unemployable while I was pregnant. It's still that way today. A lot of women have a hard time finding a higher paid job because the men at the top are like, you're just going to get pregnant. So what? You're going to be gone for however long, So that stigma still exists just to be
Absolutely.
a woman, be
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's even just one of the myriad of reasons that people justify their misogyny.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the Roe v. Wade case was built on the cases that came before, like a lot of law that comes through the Supreme Court. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the ones that preceded this were Griswold v. Connecticut. In that one, what they talked about was I believe it was Massachusetts state law that prohibited the prescription, sale, or use of contraceptives, even for married couples. Mm-hmm. And it's like, can you see how this is backwards? Can you see how?
Well, a lot of this is when it gets to being about like trying to block birth control in general, all forms of birth control. It for me comes down to two things. It's forcing your religious beliefs on everyone.
Yes.
And two, I still think they want to fill their armed forces. That's what they want. I really do think that's a factor in it.
They want everyone to have to prove that they're getting laid. They're getting laid, prove it.
There's only one
Show
way to
me
know
the
for
baby.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, they want to prove that this country was founded on, it's supposed to be a Christian country the entire time. That simply is not true. If you knew history, right?
Yeah.
The crux of Griswold versus Connecticut was basically that the Constitution guarantees a right to privacy, right? When individuals can make decisions about intimate, personal matters such as childbearing, they can make those decisions in privacy, in their own home, right? It's between you and a doctor. It's not between you and anyone else, right? The next one after that would be United States v. Vuch. I don't know how to... Vuk.
But with a V. I don't know that
I don't know how to pronounce it.
for sure, but that's all that I hear in my head.
Yeah.
So there we go.
It was the first case to mention abortion directly. The doctor in the case challenged the constitutionality of a D.C. law which permitted abortion only to preserve a woman's life or health. The court rejected the claim that the statute was unconstitutionally vague, concluding that health should be understood to include considerations of psychological as well as physical well-being.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. This is when we had William O. Douglas on the Supreme Court, who I would love to do an episode on. He all of the things he wrote, and I don't know, I really like all that shit. Anyway. Then there was Eisenstadt v. Baird, in which the Supreme Court struck down a Massachusetts law limiting the distribution of contraceptives to married couples whose physicians had prescribed them. So you couldn't mail them. There was like this law going around about obscene materials through the mail, right?
Oh,
it was like
jeez.
also an anti-porn thing, you know?
Yeah.
But like,
And specifically
that's-
targeting married couples too. Like, the
so
crazy
weird.
people around married couples.
Yeah. It's so weird.
You're like, wherever you can stop people from doing it.
Yeah.
Unless
know,
they're
there's
having
just-
babies.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And
is there just some conservative guy who's just like screaming in the Senate, just like, it doesn't feel the same with a condom, you guys. No one should have to wear them. Like, he makes a good point. It doesn't.
Okay,
they listened to that guy for like 80 years.
Filibustering. Just
He's got like fistfuls of paper, and he's just screaming and stomping like a child throwing a tantrum.
I've seen that on the Supreme Court.
But yeah, this decision, Eisenstadt versus Baird, established the right of unmarried individuals to obtain contraceptives. Hallelujah for that. My God. Now, Roe v. Wade, it challenged that Texas law prohibiting all but life-saving abortions, right? That's when it was challenging. And people will even say that law is more progressive than what they have in France. And it's like, when was France something that we all wanted to be?
yeah. That's
You know, because
Okay.
before
Good
this,
point, yeah.
you know, rich women could pay to go to like the United Kingdom and have a legal abortion done. But if you couldn't afford to have, you know, $3,000 on you at any given time, then yeah, you were fucked. you know?
That, you know, and that's something I don't know if we're going to talk about a little bit more later. But when you see these kind of subversions of the status quo in terms of abortion in our country happening, just bear in mind that rich people will always have access to safe abortions.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah,
always
no matter
will.
what.
This is about attacking poor people, because if you're poor, you're immoral. It's immoral to be poor. It's immoral to not be. There's a lot of racial and economic things tied in there, but it's just poors aren't as good as rich. They don't deserve the same thing. Like,
Keep in
And,
mind
yeah.
that the rich could always get high whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
The marijuana laws, you know, only affected poor and disaffected minority communities. They did not affect the rich white kids that came down to those communities to buy pot. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, it's kind of like how there's the famous story of Willie Nelson smoking, you know, like weed at the White House or whatever, and it's like this cute, like, that's Willie Nelson, old guy with braids, loves weed. Meanwhile, you know, people spending
People
the
are
rest
going
of
to
their
jail.
lives in jail for like a dime bag.
Yeah.
You
Double
know?
digits. Yeah. So the Supreme Court invalidated the law on the grounds that the constitutional right to privacy encompasses a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. Okay, characterizing this right as fundamental. That is from the decision. That is in quotes. Fundamental to a woman's life and future. The court held that the state could not interfere with the abortion decision unless it had compelling reason for regulation. Listen to that language. This is why Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that, like, Roe v. Wade is not the fucking smoking gun that we're looking for. You know what I mean? That's not it. Like, when it says that unless the state had a compelling reason for regulation, if you could prove that the state had an interest in not allowing abortions, then we might actually be talking about something here, right? Because that's in there, that's the crack that all, you know, that the people on the right have been chipping away at.
Sometimes I just want to go, you know, shoplift, you know, a nice, super expensive T-bone steak, and I have a compelling reason for it,
Right.
which is that I really like steak and I don't have a lot of money,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm calling is that not a compelling reason?
Right.
Solid.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like it's pretty easy to come up with compelling reasons to do anything.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah.
Do you have a compelling reason? You just rub your tum tum. You go, I'm so hungry. I'm hungry. And then they gotta let you go.
The cops are like, oh, she's got a compelling
She looks
argument
pretty
there,
hungry. We gotta let her go.
Yeah, she does. So, guess we'll
She
we'll
said
let
it
the
in a
laws
sing-song kind of way.
Nobody
extra
you
layer
can't lie like that.
of compelling. Yeah.
Now,
That's why none of us are cops.
yeah.
That's why. Yep. That's the only reason.
That's the one reason, yeah.
Now, there is a caveat to this, though. A compelling interest in protecting the potential life of a fetus could be asserted only once it became viable, right?
But there's that word, like viable, like what does that
Now,
even
isn't
mean?
viable? You might know more about this, Sally, but viable, doesn't that mean like that it can live, that a fetus could live outside of the uterus and not die?
Medically, but it also changes like in the language of abortion, the way that it's something that's brought up almost solely by anti-choice people, anti-abortion people, and their definition of that changes all the time. They'll use that interchangeably with, when life begins kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, the viability argument, I mean, even with that, that's something that is hard to pinpoint even medically.
Yeah.
Like there's
Because
a greater
everyone's different.
chance, obviously, as far as like medical science goes, we've made great strides with being able to keep very, very premature babies alive, but that's never a guarantee. That's just a statistical sort of, we can say, well, there's an okay chance after this point. It's not any sort of concrete definition whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Sally, I just have a question on that, on what you think about this. I mean, couldn't you also argue the other way, where it's like a newborn child can't survive on its own? Couldn't you also argue it's not viable then, right? Like, it has to grow to a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the terminology that you're working with,
you
then
could argue
absolutely
that,
you could argue that, yeah.
Because it's like, a child for years needs parenting to survive.
Yeah.
Right. For, pretty much 18 years. Like,
I wasn't viable till I was at least 27 years old.
I just became viable.
and they have to like nail it down. So they would put it at the beginning of the last trimester of pregnancy, which is around 21 weeks, right? Isn't it, Sally? 21 weeks, isn't that like...
I think it's I think it's closer to 26, 27.
26, okay.
But that's also, I mean, we know that statistically speaking, the vast majority of people seeking abortions are seeking them in the first trimester.
Right.
People that are getting abortions in the third trimester are almost exclusively getting them because it's like life of the mother, health of the mother, or it's simply not a viable pregnancy. It's something that it's more moral. It's more ethical to make that choice than to put the mother through a live birth.
Yeah.
And I've heard like the anti-choice groups, every time they talk about abortion, they talk about like ripping apart a baby, But the thing is, they're obviously giving this disturbing imagery, but on top of which heavily implying at the same time that that's the vast majority.
And it's not. It's not.
Abortions.
I actually have numbers on this.
Okay.
It has been reported that it has been reported that 26% of reported legal induced abortions in the United States were known to have been obtained at less than 6 weeks gestation, 18% at 7 weeks, 15% at 8 weeks, 18% 9 through 10 weeks, 10% 11 through 12, 6% at 13 to 15 weeks, 4% at 16 to 20, and 1% at 21 weeks, and really nothing over that.
Yeah. And with third trimester abortions too, I mean, regardless of where Roe stands, you're not finding doctors that are just doing this, that are like, oh, you changed your mind? Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and, because it's an entirely different procedure as well.
Yeah, that's
so
Jared was kind of
it's not the same. It's not as safe, but it's also when you can find many a story of like women that have talked about their own late term abortions, and it's not something that they wanted. It's something that was incredibly painful for them. It was for a wanted pregnancy that they couldn't continue.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking, rare thing that happens, and yeah, it's heartbreaking for everyone involved. That's something that people tend to miss on the other side of things.
I was just gonna say, and I can only speak from my anecdote. Yeah, you mentioned the vast majority was like 10 to 12, and then it kind of falls off going into the third. 10 to 12 is like when you get your first ultrasound, and it's like teeny tiny.
Right. Well, the vast majority is actually just 6 weeks.
Well, yeah,
And it does kind of jump up to
if you're lucky enough to
10.
figure out that, or to find out that you're pregnant by then, which is not always an easy thing to do.
Right.
Because there's a million reasons why you could miss your period.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why it jumps is because you realize you're pregnant, right? Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're training for a gymnastics meet, you know?
God damn it.
Could be a reason.
Well, maybe you can't.
Or the
maybe
ballet.
you simply can't afford a test.
That's why Manny Santos on Degrassi: The Next Generation thought she missed her period, and the infamous two-parter Accidents May Happen in season 3 of Degrassi, which was not aired in the U.S.
Oh,
Really?
Only in Canada. Yep.
Okay.
They aired interesting enough, they aired the rape episodes of Degrassi in the United States. They aired the school shooting episode of Degrassi in the US, but they did not air the abortion episode.
Man. Well, Degrassi, for being a Canadian
telling.
show, it really has its finger on the pulse of the American, zeitgeist.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Justice Blackmun, he wrote the opinion on Roe v. Wade. He had this quote in there, which goes back to sort of what we were talking about earlier. Quote, "We need not resolve the difficult question of when life begins. When those trained in the respective disciplines of medicine, philosophy, and theology are unable to arrive at any consensus, the judiciary in this point in the development of man's knowledge is not in a position to speculate as to the answer." End quote.
I like that.
Yeah, right?
So, that's I've never heard that before, but it's just a much better spoken version of what I was trying to communicate earlier.
Yeah.
But the idea is like it's when life begins doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah,
So it shouldn't be a legal question. It shouldn't be a legal discussion.
right.
Yeah.
Norma had a bizarre life after that. She became an
she did.
anti-abortion spokesperson.
Interesting.
She was actually working at a Planned Parenthood when this happened, and she quit and became really outspoken. She told the press in the 80s that she was raped. In 87, she told her it was not true, like that whole thing was not true. And it was straight up like on her deathbed.
Yeah, deathbed confession.
Yeah, that she said
2017.
that like I was being paid by like a special interest group to say all of these things.
Oh my god.
And like
She
I
also
didn't
had
have
a
any
live-in.
money.
She had a live-in girlfriend, a live-in a long-term female partner that she said that once she started working with these anti-abortion groups, she was like, "Oh yeah, no," she like literally was like, "We're just friends. We're just roommates," kind of thing. Like, "Oh yeah, we used to be romantically involved, but it's fully platonic now. I'm not.
Yeah.
God, no way. We don't know. What? Yeah, we still live together, but we're
I
just
saw him sleeping in
really
the
good
same
friends
bed.
now. Yeah, because we're really good friends. Okay." It's called a sleepover, and sometimes a couple gals want to do it and maybe raise some children together.
Yeah.
I don't see what the problem is. I'm definitely not gay though. Okay,
Yeah, it's just palling around with 3
my
adopted
really good
daughters.
friend.
Yeah.
She's friend zone all the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
not very believable. It's her entire life. It's just really,
man.
really sad. I mean, she
Yeah,
was
So sad.
getting yanked in every direction.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's unfortunate. So,
I think that's what history is really about at the end of the day, is hearing about people whose lives were miserable, like, the whole way through.
yeah.
And a lot of times, her life sounded so hard.
Yeah.
Just from the
Very hard.
get-go, like, she kind of never stood a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, was a fucking survivor, fucking
for
stuck in
sure.
there.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
For sure.
Now, because of when this came along, the hoopla and fervor over Brown versus Board of Education was dying down among people on the politically right. So they had to be mobilized for something else, a different reason.
You need to be outraged about something.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause
Where's the moral panic? Come on.
Right, yeah, moral panic. Because being
People are starting to
outraged-
get weird about us being racist, so we need to figure out something else.
yeah.
Yeah,
We gotta trick
like-
these people into paying all the taxes.
yeah.
Is D&D out yet? What about the rock and roll?
Oh, isn't that like
Oh, yeah.
late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, Satanic Panic, it'll get there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. This next part, all of this fits into the coming storm of the Satanic Panic.
Oh,
it
absolutely,
contributes
yeah.
to that.
Are you getting into
100%.
that? I'm excited.
I'm gonna touch on it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
get into it.
that's-
We'll
all
do a
of
whole
these-
thing on
It
that.
always ends up touching, just like a little touch on the satanic. If you cover anything going on in like 70, like 1970 to what, like 93 probably, it's gonna come up. Like,
Oh yeah,
it touched every corner of American culture.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's pretty fucked up and ruined a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the air dates of every episode of Phil Donahue, it's right around.
Yeah, Phil Donahue built a whole career on the Satanic Panic.
Also,
So
I
did
think
Ozzy
Sally's onto-
Osbourne.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say Sally's onto something with my Matthew Modine comment of earlier because
Stranger Things.
I just put it. Well, I just put it together, right?
Yeah.
Because okay, the VR abortion simulation
Yeah.
kind of in Stranger Things, right? It's the tank they put 11 into, so she has to relive her time.
No,
at
no,
the,
wait,
at-
whoa. A spoiler alert, possibly right now for
Possibly,
season 4
yeah.
of Stranger Things, part 1. But yeah, that is kind of in it.
Just okay, so I know you've seen it. You know I've
I
seen
have,
it.
yeah.
Just trace your way through every dumb fucking thing I've said this entire time, and you're like, oh yeah.
The second
motherfucker's
you
just
said
talking about
D&D.
Stranger-
The second you said D&D right now, I was like, oh yeah.
Stranger Things.
Someone
Yeah.
else also just finished season 4.
and the
yeah.
rock and roll music, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, they got I only saw the first 2 seasons, so I don't know what.
Yeah.
you're
Oh well,
talking
there's some
some
great
great-
some great
Bush right in
tunes.
Yeah, it
kinda
sounds like you
get
got
it.
some catching up to do, Chris.
about.
Yeah.
No, probably.
What if I told you Darth Maul showed up in it?
Now we're cooking with gas.
What if I told you Darth Maul and Captain America showed
Yeah.
up?
Obi Maguire. That you know who I mean.
Obi McGuire.
Obi Maguire's there.
Oh my god, that would be the best Spider-Man.
Obi Maguire plays Spider-Man.
Oh, Jedi
See,
Spider-Man, could you
It's,
imagine
it's
it?
Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan, playing Spider-Man.
Yeah. He's like, Venom, what you do to the city will affect you. You must understand this.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, I needed to laugh after all this bullshit.
All right. All right.
I'll let you
all right.
continue there.
So, okay, we're gonna get into some area where we can really bash some pieces of shit here.
Hell yeah.
Which will be better than
yeah.
what we've had to go through. Sorry, Sally, for inviting you on such a fucking dour episode.
No, I mean it's
She's like, you couldn't
someone's
invite
got
me
to
on
do
Coke.
it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to talk about it.
So what happened then is because they were like, well, Brown versus Board of Education, and went through, and now we have desegregated schools. Dang it! God dang it! What are we gonna do next?
Dang it.
And so they, realized abortion The right, let me tell you, didn't really care about abortion until Roe v. Wade happened and the mobilization of the so-called moral majority. It was led by the famous piece of shit and anti-Semite Jerry Falwell.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The SEC actually charged Falwell's church with fraud and deceit in the issuance of $6.5 million in unsecured church bonds. So basically, they were stealing money from people that were giving money to the church.
A church was stealing money?
Right? Yeah, weird,
What?
huh?
No way. Come on.
No, God gave him those private
Get out of here.
planes.
No way.
In 1984, Jerry Falwell was ordered to pay a gay rights activist and former Baptist Bible College classmate, Jerry Sloan, $5,000 after losing this court battle. Now, what this was all about was in July of 1984, during a televised debate in Sacramento, California, Falwell denied calling the gay-friendly metropolitan community churches brute beasts and, quote, a vile and satanic system, end quote. And that one day it will be utterly annihilated and there will be a celebration in heaven. He denied saying all of this, but they were like, but I have a tape, though, of you saying.
Yeah.
So,
Almost like, why is he denied? He's like, yeah, I said that shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
he's
he
in
had to pay
trouble. I know,
$5,000.
because he's in trouble. But it's
Yeah,
like,
he's not honest, right?
the people who like him are like, they're like, yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, man of God over here lies to courts. And also, the moral majority was also taken up and championed by the anti-pornography champion. He's the guy that, remember, he said that pornography in America was a communist plot to hurt the United States. It was the con man, the thief, the money launderer, the Mother Teresa favorite himself, Charles Keating, was also at the top of this moral majority. Those are the kind of people that led the charge in the anti-abortion debate.
Great group of guys, great
Yeah.
group of guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Solid
Right.
group of buddies just
Yeah.
traveling around.
Yeah, talk about palling around. Those are the boys
Fun
I
at
want to do with.
parties.
Yeah, fun times.
Now, I just sort of realized now that I don't really have anything in here about Planned Parenthood or Margaret Sanger. That's almost a different episode
that
on
could
its
that
own.
could also be an episode on its own because
Quite a few of these things could be.
Yeah, this is sort of a general thing. Again, this is incomplete. It's a general knowledge of the history that you should just simply be aware of. But basically, Margaret Sanger was horrible.
yeah.
And leadership of Planned Parenthood changed, and Planned Parenthood itself changed through that leadership as well. That's all you really need to know going forward. If anyone tries to tell you any differently, it's like, well, the Democrats were slaveholders and they were in the South, and it's like,
Yeah.
you need to get yourself some history in you,
Yeah.
pal.
Yeah.
Well, no, and from what I understand, okay, so Margaret Sanger was not a great person.
No,
But
she
she wasn't the eugenicist mastermind who was specifically, using birth control to control people of color. That's not
She
her
wasn't,
whole
yeah.
thing.
no. She was a racist old lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't. But she wanted everyone to have birth control. Right? I know that it was.
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
It's a little bit more of a gray issue than that.
It's more
She
gray
was
than that.
pro family planning across the board because I think it was mostly family planning, terminology at that point
Yeah,
too.
I
She
am
wanted
pretty
married
rusty
white
on this.
women. She wanted married white women to be able to not get pregnant if they didn't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it was kind of a everyone should plan their families, but if you're not white, you should really plan your family.
yeah, for a different reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
plan them over there and make them smaller, maybe not existent at all. Yeah, to me that's about That's about like a standard level of racism for the time. So
Well,
I'm not even
when
surprised by that.
And when you
I'm not
hear
saying
that,
it's good, but
It's definitely not. Yeah.
but when you hear that kind of shit, you know, like you really can't blame like people like Jesse Jackson for being like, yeah, I'm against abortion because all of them are like black babies dying, you know, and basically what he's doing is he's buying into the idea of replacement theory from the opposite end, right? He was afraid that there was a eugenics program or some kind of genocide that was going to happen, which with the history of this country, it's hard to put it past this country. You know what I mean?
For sure.
It's not the case. It's not, but it's like, well, you know, in his case, you know, in that case, sometimes, you know, you can notice that. I do want to mention though that like not having access to abortion and contraceptives at the ready disproportionately disaffects the people of color communities across this nation, more so than, you know, anyone else.
In the same way that most medical, but probably every medical sort of
Absolutely
issue goes. And specifically, like Black women have ridiculously high rates of mortality on every end, but especially maternal mortality.
Oh yeah, you're what, like 4 times as likely to die from childbirth,
something like that. Yeah, if you're a Black woman, like it's ridiculous.
That's insane.
It's insane. Like in the year 2022, that is a reality. Incredible stuff. Yeah. Not in a good way.
No, absolutely not.
What the right basically took up to chip away at Roe v. Wade was this idea that came through Planned Parenthood versus Casey. The justices imposed a new standard to determine the validity of laws restricting abortions. Okay, the new standard asks whether a state abortion regulation has the purpose or effect of imposing an, quote, undue burden. Undue burden on the mother. Which is defined as a substantial obstacle in the path of a woman seeking an abortion before the fetus attains viability. There's a lot of vagaries going on in there. Yeah. But especially undue burden. It's like, isn't having an unwanted pregnancy already an undue burden? You know?
Yeah. The same like argument about the gray area of what viability means.
Right.
I think they write this shit with vagary as like it's the reason why, and so you can litigate it from all these different fucking directions and pull it apart.
Yeah,
they use vagary as a weapon, you know.
Yeah, it's not meant to be ironclad because it's by design.
Well, I mean, our Constitution is written that way as well, you know, and it's so like Supreme Court cases can just kind of like keep building, and like sort of on paper,
John Hancock
it looks good.
Rules, and he just wanted us to trash the whole thing.
Yeah,
just a theory.
And he loves Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, I have heard that
rules
too.
And it's just right.
Loves a bloomin' onion.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? What am I saying?
Yeah. But under this standard, the only provision that actually fails the quote undue burden test was the husband notification requirement. Yes, there were some states that required you to notify the man on the side of the equation.
I always make sure to turn my husband notifications off. You know what I'm saying? Keep them on silent, not even vibrate.
Yeah. Both you and my wife. Keep them on silent. They turn them right off.
While all of this is escalating, right, and the moral majority is being mobilized to vote the way they want them to, of course, there are extremists that will come about because of this. A couple of groups in this country that are still operating. One of them, which is kind of the overarching organization is called the White Rose Society. Does anyone know where the White Rose Society came from?
Is it
I
a
mean, I was
reference to
hoping
Batman's
Sailor Moon,
parents
but-
dying?
Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
And Batman's parents
Batman's
dying.
parents, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
Sailor Moon killed Batman's parents.
Now, that is something I might watch.
Yeah, actually, that's the ultimate crossover. But it's got to be something super cool, because it sounds like a super cool thing.
It is pretty cool where it came from originally. It was this group of like intellectuals from colleges that opposed the Nazis in Germany. They were people within Germany that opposed the Nazis, and
I like that.
They were-
I like that so far.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on it.
I'm
Sounding
pro
good.
opposing Nazis.
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Who isn't? Well,
Nazis.
these days, it's,
Shockingly, you know, the election of 2016 sure showed me that there were a few more than I thought.
it's like, I thought we were all against these guys. Don't you guys like Indiana Jones? They're like, we're watching it for a different reason.
You mean that bad guy, Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
who's melting those First Amendment rights activists' faces off?
Yeah.
it's power of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure it's that power. It's a power of God.
Yep.
Read your Bible. The White Rose Society, yeah, it was founded for fighting Nazis, basically. It's been reappropriated and probably misappropriated, I would say, by this other group of mainly men who are violently anti-abortion. White Rose Society, they meet to mourn the loss of the unborn life. And that's what they do. And they view themselves as fighting an immoral government, much like the original White Rose Society, which is icky, honestly.
That is icky.
It is icky, because it's forever
I'm
now
icked,
tainted,
yeah.
the original.
It's like the original Nazis did with the swastika.
Swastika.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's ruined forever.
yeah.
done.
Nazis have a
Don't bring it
track
back.
record of fucking up good symbols.
Yeah, no more swastikas, no more little mustaches.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
The name Adolf.
What they would do is they would...
Yeah.
Yeah, the name
yeah.
Adolf. Yeah. The German people had to come up with a whole new other common name.
Jadolf. They're efficient, not creative.
Yeah. But what they would do, they would also distribute wanted posters with abortionists' faces, contact information, home addresses on them, and you know, baby murderer, baby killer. They would distribute photographs of aborted fetuses.
They were doxing
And,
before there was a term for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I was gonna say these guys sound like Scientologists.
Oh man, I forgot to mention when we were sort of like looking at this type of thing, there was one dog shit abortionist back in the day before Roe v. Wade, who, when he was finished with the abortion, held up this bloody bag and said to the woman, "Look what you did,"
Oh,
and like it
jeez.
totally scarred her. Fucking awful.
That's,
Anyway.
yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
I hope at least one woman said, "I can't believe I ate the whole thing."
They also have a website which has I've been to it. I'm
God.
sure I'm on some FBI list now because they're considered a terrorist group in America that is still
Okay.
operating.
As they should be.
It has lots of pictures of aborted fetuses on there. Not pleasant to look at, let me tell you that.
Also, maybe not all of them are actually like real images, because
Yes.
these people are
Yeah.
known to doctor and lie and use different
Absolutely.
animal embryos and all sorts of things. They're not known for their truthfulness in general, nor their
Yeah.
medical or scientific accuracy.
Oh, and we're gonna get to the people that run this shit And I wouldn't trust a single word they say.
No.
Personally, you know.
No.
Most of those pictures on there are just pictures of Quado from Total Recall. You can cut that. That's
funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like
Jesus.
It's fine. It's making fun of them.
Yeah. That was my hope, but I feel like someone's going to take it out of context and be like, no, there's an asshole.
They made it this far into the episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, basically since 1977, when the moral majority was really being mobilized, in the United States and Canada, there have been 17 attempted murders, 383 death threats, 153 incidences of assault or battery, 13 wounded, 100 butyric acid stink bomb attacks. This is something that is in their manual, which I'll get to in a second. It's kind of like the anarchist cookbook for anti-abortion terrorists. 373 physical invasions, 41 bombings, 655 anthrax threats, 655. 3 kidnappings, all committed against abortion providers. And it's not always the doctor. Sometimes, like a lot of the time, it's straight up like the front person working at the front desk.
Yeah.
So I can speak to that with Planned Parenthood. I mean, you have to sign a lot, even just to volunteer there at a clinic. You have to, go through a bunch of paperwork, sign a bunch of waivers, and also read a bunch of sort of guidelines and warnings about things that you might see or experience, or the risks that you're putting yourself in, which isn't. I mean, it's for an actual the medical staff of like a private abortion clinic. I feel like it's much higher risk, but still, you have to take it seriously because this is something that has happened before. People have bombed clinics and they've committed acts of violence. And there was a time when I was still working with Planned Parenthood, and someone came into the clinic, to open up super early that morning, and someone on the side of the building had spray painted Jesus. That's all it said. And it could have just been a basic tag, but it also, because it's a Planned Parenthood building, it was something that had to be reported to the FBI, and we had to shut down and have these specialized people come check the premises and keep an eye on things, because you never know. It's a legitimate threat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being anywhere near one, almost anywhere in the United States. I mean, there is some kind of. Would you say there's some kind of threat? Do you feel did you feel a little bit of threat while working there? I
mean, I was aware of it. I never experienced anything that made me feel actively scared, but they let you know when you first start, if you're going to spend a good amount of time, whether that's working or volunteering or, whatever, you need to know that this is something that could happen. So you should be, vigilant, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is you shouldn't have to be hypervigilant in a doctor's office.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry about someone bursting through the room. Or your doctor suddenly dropping dead. Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. It is said that 1/5 of clinics in the year 2000 experienced some sort of extremist activity. And I mean, I think that could be, anything as small as writing, spray painting Jesus on the wall, or something as big as, a bombing or kidnapping,
following
or
someone home. Following someone's kid home from school.
Yeah. Taking pictures,
which is something that happened with Dr. Tiller. Many
we're
occasions.
about to talk about Dr. Tiller. Yeah.
Speaking of which.
The main group that is responsible for this is a group called the Army of God. It is a leaderless American Christian terrorist organization.
One of those good old American Christian terrorist organizations.
Yeah, indeed.
Clearly not the army of creativity and originality.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't like be like the sword of Michael or something. Like
At least
name
like,
that came to their head.
The Left Behind books are like, we're the tribulation force. Like that, that's okay, I get it. That kind of sounds badass. Okay, Kirk Cameron, I see you. But
Yeah.
There you go.
yeah, just army of God.
yeah, okay,
Oh.
yeah. These the members of Army of God, they perpetrated anti-abortion violence, according to the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security's joint terrorism knowledge base. The Army of God is, quote...
Can we just call him AOG?
Yeah, you can't call him OG or AUG.
Oh.
I don't...
Auga.
Army of God America, Euga.
Yeah.
It is an active underground terrorist organization operating in the United States. In addition to numerous property crimes, the group has committed acts of kidnapping, attempted murder, and murder. Members even sent like phony anthrax through the mail when the anthrax scare was going on. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't real anthrax, and it's like, yeah, but it was when...
Yeah, that's
were
not.
You scared the shit out of someone.
Yeah. I mean, that's terrorism, you know?
Yeah, that was literally the intent was to terrorize.
You get really excited because you think you got cocaine in the mail. You get really scared because you think you might have anthrax. Then you find out it's baby powder and sawdust, and
It's
you
a
snorted
whirlwind
the
of
whole
emotions.
bag. Yeah.
They're like, oh boy, oh no, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, who said, oh, this is bad? Like, am I in danger?
Yeah.
Also, a huge waste of resources. Like, if you call in, like, an anthrax scare to a local, law enforcement, they have to bring out, like, everyone. They have to bring out hazmat teams. I mean, it's a huge deal. It is taken very, very seriously. So it is a ginormous waste of time and resources.
And
I think that's kind of
dollar.
part of the idea, though, isn't it? Like, it's like the same thing as swatting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you're just looking to, like, shut them down, cause damage to where they're, like, not operating.
People, I mean, swatting, and that can actually result in unintentional deaths. But
Demonstrably.
Oh, yeah. This group is also responsible for sending a death threat via letter to the Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun, who wrote the majority opinion for Roe v. Wade, who I quoted earlier. And this is sort of a sticking point when these people are prosecuted. They're like, well, are you going to try to assassinate, like, one of our officials? Because now we're actually talking, you know what I mean? Like, when you make a bunch of, like, death threats against abortion providers, the cops kind of like, yeah, well, we'll watch out, but if you make a threat against, like, a Supreme Court justice, now we have to take it seriously, right?
Certainly not before.
Yeah. The Army of God Manual is an anonymous document which was written by anti-abortionist members of the Army of God and is widely endorsed by them. And according to their website, the manual is, quote, not to be construed as sanctioning any group or individual to perform any action, end quote.
So they have at least one lawyer in that group.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Okay, we gotta. Okay, I'm on your side, but we gotta watch our butts a little bit here. So
we gotta do it right.
yeah.
They're like, this
allegedly.
isn't for doing anything bad. Now that we got that out of the way, here's all the directions on how to make bombs.
Yeah, exactly.
And in particular, butyric acid was detailed on how to make that. It's just a really foul-smelling acid that can actually harm your respiratory system as well.
It's like COVID.
Yeah. Well, you can inject it. You can inject it.
Stinky COVID.
Yeah, stinky COVID.
Stinky COVID.
You can, like, inject it through keyholes and stuff.
Ugh.
you know, and you have to like at least replace like a bunch of furniture and stuff. It costs some money. Again, to just chip away, anything they can do to chip away at that is something they will do. So in 1993, a woman named Shelley Shannon, an active member in the Army of God, she was convicted of attempted murder when she shot Dr. George Tiller 5 times. And he survived. This time, he survived.
Yeah.
Before this, in June of 1986, his clinic was firebombed. And luckily no one was harmed in the firebombing, but still, you know. While it was being rebuilt, Tiller actually displayed a sign that said, quote, "Hell no, we won't go," end quote, which is great.
Where was this clinic again?
Where was George Tiller operating?
It's like Ohio or Indiana, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I want to say
Middle
somewhere around
America, kind
Midwest.
of.
I was expecting like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, but that's surprising.
Seems
All
like Texas is causing a lot of problems as far as this goes.
Kansas, Wichita.
Yo, that's not
okay.
bad.
Okay, Kansas. Now, at the time she attacked Dr. Tiller, Shannon had been an anti-abortion extremist for 5 years previously and had written letters of support to the convicted murderer Michael Griffin, who had already murdered Dr. David Gunn. She called him a hero. On May 31st, which is today that we are recording this.
Oh, yes.
In 2009, Dr. George Tiller was fatally shot in the side of the head by an anti-abortion extremist, Scott Roeder. He was actually at church.
He was at church, yeah.
Yeah, he was at church. He was an usher, and he was handing out church bulletins at his church in Wichita, the Reformation Lutheran Church. Leading up to this, Bill O'Reilly on his show was calling him a murderer and saying that, you know, well, I wouldn't want to be him when the judgment day comes. And basically, I believe he's complicit in Dr. Tiller's murder.
He is.
You know, by putting his face out there and calling him a murderer and those things, you know. He's complicit.
In the way that a lot of his contemporaries and the people that have followed Bill O'Reilly are complicit in things that happen.
100%.
To this day.
Yeah. Now, of course, when Dr. Tiller had his funeral with his family there, the Westboro Baptist Church came and picketed.
Those goofs.
Yeah. This is the company you keep, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you're high and mighty, basically, and you say all of these hurtful things towards women that are looking for, again, a way to control their lives. The company you keep are the people we're talking about. Westboro Baptist Church, Shelley Shannon, these people.
The most Christian, the most Jesus-like people that I can think of.
Right.
Very Christ-like.
Christian Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no joke. Like, no lies detected. Another such piece of shit who, to this day, in interviews, shows no remorse and is proud that he shows no remorse. Paul Jennings Hill. He was found guilty of the murder of both Dr. John Britton and his clinic escort, James Barrett, when he emptied a shotgun into both of them as they pulled up to the abortion clinic. To this day, he said that God guided his hands. He emptied the shotgun. He even reloaded before he realized they were dead. And he laid the shotgun on the ground so when the police got there, they wouldn't shoot him immediately, right? And they didn't. And he went to jail.
Also, we should talk about we should address the fact that clinic escorts, that's something that, you know, it's not a job. That's a volunteer position that people can do. And there's only a need for that because of violent protesters. These are people that volunteer their own time to help protect women that are going in for any reason too. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get screamed at because you're going in to get a pap smear.
Right.
They're just assuming that, you're going in to get an abortion when, generally speaking, that's not the only thing that these clinics practice. But
I believe it's pronounced pap schmear.
You're right. You're right. Going in to get a pap smear, going into Einstein's to get a pap smear.
Yep.
So
Doesn't Planned Parenthood also help like men that are dealing with cancer?
I mean, so Planned Parenthood. I mean, it's location to location, but like the majority of like the locations don't even provide like surgical abortion services.
Right.
They can give you referrals, but they're like basic healthcare clinics. You can go there and get a strep test if you need one, but you can absolutely get prostate exams there.
Yeah.
You can get breast exams. You can get pap
A
smears
fistful of condoms.
for free.
Tested. Yeah. Tested for STDs as well.
Yeah, treated for them too.
And treated for the yeah.
They do a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, it sucks that there is a need for clinic escorts because, like, you don't know, like, when people are, like, camping outside of the abortion clinic, screaming at people that are going inside, you don't know if one of them is packing heat, which they might, and whether or not they want to use it on you today. You know what I mean?
The people there were people that at the clinic that I worked at, or the health center next to the clinic, but every Sunday there was a group of like little old ladies that would sit and like on the sidewalk next to the parking lot, and they would just pray the rosary, and they didn't bother anyone, which, I mean, it's still frustrating. It's like people are going in here to get, just medical services, like, that's not, but also you never know. I mean, that's certainly not representative of all clinic protesters. Not even close.
Right. Yeah, it's annoying, but at least they're not like the there's that HBO documentary that shows members of the Army of
Fourth
God.
and Jack, or it's a street. It's a street corner. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I watched what was available on YouTube, and it ends kind of abruptly. The people involved, man, I wouldn't want anywhere near me. I'm sorry, like, they are unhinged. They are out of their minds. You know what I mean? Like, one guy straight up goes, "Yeah, so God told me I had to circumcise myself."
Okay.
And it's like, wow. You know
what? I bet he could have gone to one of these clinics and they would have, circumcised him in a much cleaner manner, much less painful.
way.
Yeah, much safer.
They do that there?
Yeah.
Should have got that done.
Now his dick looks like a can of beans he tried to open with a penknife. Just ragged edges.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
And that's why he's so mad about all these darn people having sex too.
Yeah.
He's never gonna be,
because he's not doing it anymore. Yeah.
No.
It hurts.
I think
Yeah.
he needs to put some wax on his dick, peel it off, get it
There we
smooth
go.
again,
Yep.
and then
Dip the tip. Dip the tip.
There was Eric Robert Randolph. Now, he
They all
perpetrated...
have too many names.
Yeah, right? Too many first names.
Yeah.
He perpetrated the Centennial Olympic Park bombing in Atlanta. So while the Olympics were going on in Atlanta, he set off a bomb there during the 1996, was it, Summer Olympics?
Yeah, that sounds for Atlanta.
Yeah. And his reasoning was because the Olympics in particular, they were celebrating, to use his terms, global socialism.
Yeah, okay.
Global socialism is what he wanted. These,
In the heart of Georgia.
yeah.
Also, if you look at the way in which money is made through, like, it is a very capitalist venture, the Olympics.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times the athletes end up broke. They're not the ones making the money. It's the organizers and the
he was on the run for a long time. It took him actually a long time to catch him. But he actually, when they did catch him, he confessed to 3 other bombings. One of an abortion clinic in Atlanta, in Sandy Springs, Atlanta, suburb of Atlanta, January 16th, 1997. And on the Other Side Lounge of Atlanta, which was a lesbian bar, in February 21st, 1997.
No
which
one gets
injured
more
5.
abortions than lesbians. So.
Yeah, I was like, come on.
Like, dude, should you want more lesbians then? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it, you know?
It'll solve a lot of your problems.
Yeah.
It's because they don't want to have sex with him. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
well, I mean, have you seen his penis? It looks like a
No.
can of beans
They all-
he tried to open with a pen.
They all
That's
have
nice.
that.
Have you seen his face? Have you seen what he looks like? And
I
how he
imagine
acts?
Jake
The man
Busey's
is a
character
madman.
from The Frighteners. Can I just say right now?
Oh,
Just all teeth, shotgun, wild eyes.
yeah. He actually bombed another one in Birmingham, Alabama on January 29th, 1998. And actually, 1998 was the worst year in this country for anti-abortion violence among these extremist Christian terror groups. That bomb, the one in Birmingham, it actually killed an off-duty police officer that was a security guard, acting as a security guard. He was volunteering at this clinic. He found the bomb and it went off. And another woman that was going inside, her name was Emily Lyons. She was a nurse that was on her way inside. She was injured, but Robert Sanderson was killed immediately by this bomb. His bombs, they contained nails and things like that, the nail bombs. This is something that the manual talks heavily about making these like pipe bombs and explosives.
Yeah, throws debris everywhere.
Yeah, like
it's like
shrapnel.
what
And they say specifically nails. So that's you can definitely know that this guy's getting his information from the Army of God
Interesting.
and not the
Didn't-
anarchist cookbook, right?
Ted
No.
Kaczynski do that kind of thing? Didn't he have nails?
Yeah. Ted Kaczynski is a different thing.
He's a
but,
completely he's a kind of a unique case.
yeah.
Hey, Ted Kaczynski's bombs had nails, but they were nails he made himself. He was a pretty DIY guy, so
Had to be.
I mean,
That was his main thing.
He was
Yeah.
a character.
he made the sunglasses and the hoodie himself.
There's a handyman in that shit.
He's an
of his.
amazing seamstress, actually. In another lifetime, could have seen him on Project Runway.
Yeah. He's like, I made my own aviator sunglasses, but I still like have to squat to shit in this hole.
Priorities. Okay.
Yeah. He was he was a fugitive for 5 years after this bombing in Birmingham, and he was basically hiding out in the hills of, his native North Carolina. They actually caught him dumpster diving. Mm-hmm. So like he hid for 5 years and they could never find him until they found him dumpster diving.
That's probably where he got the majority of his food.
Yeah.
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 He's hiding.
It was actually a rookie cop that found him. And I just, man, I wish I could have been in that cop car when I positively identified him. Because I just imagine, like, sure thing, boss. Like, I think I think I got my man, boss.
He's like, wow, hunting criminals is easy.
Yeah. I'm really on the beat today, hey, boss? It's way like Kenny Banya. Now, his brother, Eric Rudolph, when his brother was arrested for all this stuff, in protest of his brother going to jail, he took a circular saw and cut his own hand off.
Cool. That'll show him.
It's a little
Which I
dramatic.
can't fucking imagine.
Yeah.
A little much.
Yeah. He
People
videotaped
are nuts. Yeah.
So he thought, like, okay, I cut my own hand off. For sure, they're gonna let him go.
Yeah.
Because there's such a precedence for that
Right.
in our
Yeah.
justice system.
Look how upset I am. You gotta, like...
Yeah. They always
Come
let people
on.
go when you cut
I
your
miss
hand
my
off.
brother.
Yeah.
He knew that it wasn't his hand holding his brother in jail, right?
Right.
It's like a metaphor. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have just got confused.
yeah. Poor guy.
But the one that runs this website, the Army of God website, is a real winner of a human being.
Out.org.
His name is Neil Horsley. That's his name,
That sounds like a Tim and Eric name.
right?
Totally.
Neil Horsley.
Will Forte.
As Neil Horsley.
Yeah.
Yeah, now.
Yeah. Now.
Bring me another pair of pants. Now, he believes, to this day, that the abortion issue will bring about another civil war in the United States. Now,
I mean,
It might. God, it might.
like, that's one thing where I'm like, I mean, if y'all got crazy enough, maybe, I don't want to do that.
It would be
But
it would be a
Jesus.
mix of that and a bunch of other
Yeah.
things.
But yeah, other
not
shit.
not just that. At least not on the other side.
Yeah.
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 It's kind of like being
solely
like
that.
putting marshmallows in vanilla ice cream makes it Rocky Road. It's like there's some other stuff in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like racism and automatic weapons.
Oh yeah.
That's the peanuts and the other.
Neil Horsley, all this stuff is stuff that he has said. Okay, I'm getting this from that documentary that
From
he
the
straight
horse's
from
mouth.
Ah, damn it.
I got it.
from
I
the
got it
Horsley's
first.
mouth.
Straight from the Horsley's mouth.
Yeah.
Primo. Just yeah.
Just horsing around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During the counterculture time, he was against the Vietnam War, and he believed that smoking and distributing marijuana made him some sort of outlaw, right? So he wanted to distribute marijuana all over the United States to make himself an outlaw, I guess.
Wow, what a badass.
I know. It's
Yeah,
like,
cool
what
dude
the
coming
fuck?
through.
You,
Wow.
it's like you smoked weed like a bunch over the course of like a year and arrived at some interesting conclusions.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to him.
I have two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I just worry if my cat loves me enough when I'm high.
Yeah, me too.
Or, to be specific, that my cat thinks I don't love her enough.
Right. Yeah. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I have to hug my cat.
I was like, I love you, kitty. And they're like, because you're holding them.
Yeah. Or I'd eat a whole pizza.
Yeah.
All this time you could have been becoming an outlaw, though.
Yeah.
I
Right.
know.
What
Yeah.
crazy.
Could have been an outlaw. Instead, I made a sloppy Joe quesadilla.
So Neil Horsley was the guy that started the Army of God website. And, he would put names and addresses of abortionists on there. And then when they were killed, he would put a line through their name. You know what I mean? Or gray them out when they were like, when they weren't able to perform abortions, right? So like if somebody had damaged the clinic or if something had happened where they couldn't actually go on with business, their name would be grayed out, right? And then of
If a
course
law
made
was
the
passed, maybe, too.
right.
If funding was cut. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, like doing that, like, well, I don't want my tax dollar to go to abortion.
It doesn't. It never has.
No, but even if it did, to withhold that funding, that is still moral based funding. That
Yeah.
relies on the fact that we're either giving or withholding money based off of morals that are set from a particular religion or ideology. Which is not what this country is based on. I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
Read all the Enlightenment thinkers; they will all disagree with you if you think that is true. Horsley, he's in the documentary. He's very outspoken, and he's kind of hilarious to listen to because his voice is kind of hilarious, and I don't feel bad for mocking his voice.
Like a Jordan Peterson kind of situation.
Well, he talks like this, and one of these days all the transgressions are going to come down, and there's going to be a civil war in this country. And it's like, man, you were talking like a fucking cartoon character.
Cartoon, like old prospector kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I was kind of shocked the first time I heard Mitch McConnell speak.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Right?
Sounds like a
However,
little turtle.
Yeah.
Mr. Horsley, in a 2005 interview that was on TV, cameras were pointed at him, and he decided to say this. Now, he could have meant this from two possible contexts, and I'll mention them after I say what this is. But it shows you just how fucking unhinged of a person you would have to be, and hungry for attention you would have to be in order to talk about something like this while cameras are pointed at you. Anyway, he mentioned that when he was an adolescent, he had engaged in bestiality, including having sex with a mule.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Then he isn't like, and then the Lord showed me the way, but or
Well, see,
he's just like, nah, this happened.
He just wanted to
think
get that
that's
off his
what-
chest.
I think that's one way he
So
could have.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
You know, I accidentally got this mule pregnant when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And she kept it because it was a gift from God.
I think that
He's like,
he,
so
he
you
was
guys
doing
into
it
that,
to be
or-
like. I think he was doing
Step
it to
up
be
to
like.
the plate.
Yeah. You know how like born again Christians will be like, before I was a born again, I was a Satanist. We sacrificed people to
Yeah.
Satan. And it's like, no, you didn't. You fucking asshole. Stop saying that. This
Like that one
feeds into the
comedian who
satanic
did that.
panic.
I do still believe that Horsley might have fucked a mule.
yeah, no. He
I could
definitely
see that
fucked a mule.
happening. Yeah.
Oh, I still believe
Like-
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah.
fucked a mule, smoked a cigarette behind an Arby's one time, and then like built the whole thing around.
Where do you think he got the name? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was behaving hoarsely.
Yeah. Or he was lying about it, which is so weird.
Also
because there
weird.
were cameras on you. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand this person. I
He's
don't
like, so
really
y'all-
want to understand this person.
Yeah. He's like, so y'all fuck horses or what?
Yeah. Again, this is the company you're keeping.
They fuck horses, don't they?
Indeed. Yeah.
Well, a mule.
First and foremost, we've said this before, even during this episode, but abortion will not stop if it's illegal. Women will simply just die. That is the case. Okay? I don't care how many of your pregnancy crisis centers are out there. If they're on every block, abortions will happen. And if they're not made safe and available, women will die. That's just the fucking reality right there. Performed legally and safely on a woman who desires it, induced abortions do not increase the risk of long-term mental or physical problems. This is all a myth that comes from circumstantial and anecdotal evidence,
Right.
which people that really think that they think logically will fall into these logical
The
fallacies.
anecdotal thing where it's like, yeah, absolutely. Where it's like,
Yeah,
well, it worked for me,
anecdotal-
or like,
Yeah.
Yeah, anecdotal
anecdotal.
mischaracterizations, things like this. It's something that I sort of expect now. Now, these crisis pregnancy centers, they peddle false information. They are nothing short of con artists, I believe.
They almost never have an actual medical
no
person on staff.
no
It's not accredited in any sort
No.
of way.
Yeah, it's the church of hospitals, right?
Oh, there we go.
So there's no one that's actually gonna save you. You know what I mean? There. And
Sounds like
all
Mother
of-
Teresa.
Right, like Mother Teresa. May as well go see Mother Teresa. They peddle false information on not only pregnancy, but abortion and contraception. They even said that, after an abortion, sometimes a woman could die because the legs or arms are inside the heart or lungs
What?
of the woman. I'm serious.
That's
I'm
insane.
serious.
That's
And it's like, that's not how that
bodies work.
works.
That's
You
not.
fucking crazy person.
This person doesn't understand even like elementary school
Yeah.
That's
anatomy.
like Cronenberg shit right there.
Yeah.
Right.
You get in there and
real
it's just
stuff.
like the inside of like a vacuum bag. It's just it's all just kind of it's all in there. Prove me
Anyway.
wrong.
Yeah.
They're also known
And-
to show. They'll show you other people's ultrasounds. They don't know how
Yeah.
to use actual ultrasound machines.
No,
So they'll
they
show
even-
someone that's 6 weeks pregnant the ultrasound of someone that's 26 weeks pregnant,
Oh,
Right.
really?
just to like freak them out. Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
a fucking scam.
it is.
Yeah.
It
This
is.
is
Yes.
an ultrasound. Is it my ultrasound?
Is it?
It's an ultrasound.
It's an ultrasound.
Yeah. No more questions.
Yeah.
I'm a doctor. Ish.
Yeah, I'm a
so,
doctor
of
with a question mark.
theology.
Yeah.
Are you a doctor?
Not even that.
I have a stethoscope.
Yeah.
You didn't answer my question.
Yeah. Now, this can actually exacerbate the problem some of these women have, because if they accidentally walk into one of these crisis pregnancy centers thinking it is a place that provides abortion, what ends up happening is you can actually get a lot of misinformation about what is going to happen to you and to your body during this process, and it will keep you from actually getting an abortion by the time you need one. And sometimes people, again, I mentioned this earlier, but people will realize that what they were told at the crisis pregnancy center was a bunch of horse shit, and they went to go get an actual abortion and it was too late.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot of abortion doctors out there that were like, yep, it happened. I had to tell her, like, nope, you're having this baby now. And again, it just goes against this bonkers, ludicrous idea that, like, oh no, we'll do it anytime. It's like, no, that fucking never happens unless it's like an extraordinary situation. And they'll brag to you about how much money they give to these things and how they take care of women with their own money and stuff. Good for you, right? But this isn't on a government level, right? This isn't offered to every woman. I would imagine this isn't offered to women of color or black women. That this is mainly offered to white suburban Midwestern women,
Right.
predominantly. I'd venture to guess. I don't actually have the numbers. They have the number. They have whatever numbers they have. I don't trust a word they say. So even showing me those numbers, I don't even know if it would prove anything to me.
They're also not great with hooking these women up with actual social services. Like they
No.
convince them to keep their pregnancy, and then that's it. It's like, well, okay, you're on your own. Oh, you can go to this like special, like this Christian counseling service,
Right.
but they're not going to get you the help and the support that you actually need.
Right. Telling somebody that Jesus died for their sins and everything's going to be okay in the end is not always a sufficient
Yeah.
answer, right, that you need in that moment. Sorry, but it's not. And let's face it, they're not going to pay to help keep that kid alive for 18 years. They're just not
No.
going to do it. They'll do it as long as it's convenient. And they'll even say, like, give the woman maternity clothes, help her out with diapers, but you gotta cut her off. And it's like, so what the fuck is the point then? You know, if your own program doesn't work, I don't know.
Babies are super expensive, man. Babies
Yeah.
are super expensive. And
Yeah.
if you don't have a safety net, if you don't have a big if both parents don't have good jobs, if you don't have help from family, if you don't have just a bunch of things that you need in order
Yeah.
to make it work, the kid's gonna have a hard time, the parents are gonna have a hard time, and there's no way like resentment isn't fomented,
Yeah.
to some degree. But you got to push your political agenda,
Yeah. And to this day, there's this myth out there from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center here in Seattle. They did this study that they fucked up on and have since recanted, but since it came out, it's too late.
It's out there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that by having an abortion, it increases your risk of having breast cancer. Which is not true.
No.
Not true. But even legal abortionists you have to tell the patients that. Even so, as an abortionist, you can go, I don't agree with it. There is no evidence that says that this is true, but I am legally obligated to tell you that. Mm-hmm. It's so stupid. And they'll keep saying this over and over again. It's like, do you know how the body works at all? Do you know how cancer works at all? I don't know. And of course, they have the fetus funerals at the end, trying to make that a law.
Oh, yeah.
Things like this. There was one such pregnancy center that was run by this fucking lunatic ex-Marine guy. He was inviting teenage girls that, probably just needed an abortion and go home. He was inviting them over so they could have their babies, in his pregnancy center. Turns out he was molesting them.
Oh, God.
So you're not safe with these people.
No.
You know what I mean? At least that guy.
When you go into the abortion center and it's just like a guy's garage and he's like, lay down on the bench press next to the poster. You're like, what?
No,
That's when you know you've walked into the wrong place.
It looks like that basement doctor in the 89 Batman.
Yep. You see what I have to work with.
They'll also try to chip away at existing abortion clinics by giving them ridiculous building code standards that they have to adhere to, with giant hallways, like hospital hallways and shit. Where they're like, well, abortion clinics have to be like hospitals.
And they have to be this close to emergency rooms and things like that, too, geographically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Or then they'll make another law that's like, oh, but it can't be this close to a school, right? Mm-hmm. So now
you have to find these little windows.
Like where can you go, right? And that's the point, right? That's the point of what they're doing.
If we can't outright get rid of it, let's just make it as difficult as humanly possible.
And would you say an undue burden?
You know what? Actually, I would say that's quite fitting.
Right?
Quite fitting.
Yeah. Especially with the funding, too. They're like, well, if we pay for women who have been raped, if we pay for their abortions, then women are going to lie about being raped to get free abortions.
Oh my God.
This is real. I mean, they said this on the Senate floor.
Yeah.
Astounding, honestly. Like there's some of the stuff that they think women just want and are willing to subject themselves to for the I mean, somewhere in there, they have to recognize that she really wants an abortion and she's willing to go to great lengths to get one. That should tell you that there's some sort of importance and validity to what she wants and needs. And at the same time, they're still going to use it as like a get out of jail free card. Those two things, I don't know, they just don't jive with me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just don't. They don't care. They don't care. They truly do not.
I mean,
they don't care about women. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
They're not even trying to hide it.
Right.
Yeah.
More things that they would do is they'd have mandatory wait times. Some laws to chip away Roe v. Wade, mandatory wait times, where you have to wait 72 hours. Some women don't have 72 hours.
Yeah.
Things like this, making it super long to where you end up bringing the baby to term anyway, where it's like not illegal, but it's impossible to get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why we're bringing this up now is I'm sure you're all aware out there that there's a lot of states that are cracking down on their abortion laws, and also there was the unprecedented leak from the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's never happened before, which in a way I think is kind of dumb, because they're like, oh, well, we can't have the American people thinking about what we're going to do. And it's like, you're the only body that we don't actually directly vote on. It freaks me out more than anything, you know? And yeah, some of these laws that are coming out, like the Texas bounty hunter law, right? Where you can turn somebody in looking for an abortion and get money for it. That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
How dare they call that the Texas bounty hunter law? That should be such a cooler law.
Right?
You know?
Is it called that? Or are we just calling it,
I'm calling it that.
Well, I'd like to think of it having more to do with Chuck Norris maybe giving a roundhouse kick, you know, to a bad guy.
You got Chuck Norris, you got Boba Fett, you know.
He's giving a roundhouse kick to an abortionist.
Well, I'd like to think he's doing a roundhouse kick to, like, I don't know, someone who's, like, smuggling... I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I know where Chuck Norris stands.
Something we can all agree is bad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think we all know where Chuck Norris stands on this, unfortunately.
Uranium, plutonium.
Bootleg Total Gems from the former Soviet Union. He's like, me and Christy Brinkley did not sign off on this.
Yeah.
We don't want them damn Soviet Total Gems in here.
We gotta hunt him down.
Yeah. Remember when I listed off all those percentages, right? 6 weeks was the most, right? And then it kind of spikes up towards 9 to 10, right, in that area. Well, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and Georgia all have draconian abortion ban laws on the books that would ban any abortion after 6 weeks. No exceptions for rape and incest, which is troubling because I mean, for a myriad of reasons that we just discussed, it is troubling. It's troubling to see our country moving that way.
It's also very clear that they, they have more of a problem with, or they're more interested in controlling women's bodies than they're worried about women getting raped.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They're going to end up, like, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up prosecuting, if more women end up being prosecuted for whatever the charge is when it comes to, getting an illegal abortion, than people that are actually being charged with rape. Like, I could definitely see that outcome. And also, when you're prosecuting women, we've seen it happen, especially in a lot of in other countries this has happened, but it gets to a point where they just start prosecuting women that have had miscarriages.
Yeah. And
even if they don't end up taking the case, even if it gets dismissed eventually, it's insane. It's ridiculous. They're eventually going to start policing every aspect of that. And that's just, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, like in the story of Jane, when they had, a couple of late, around 20, 21, 22 week, people that were looking for that, and they gave them miscarriages, and then had to bring them to the hospital. The hospital didn't treat it like a miscarriage. They treated it like an abortion. Yeah. And that's, for me, that's enough. Like when some of these people are like, point to one law that says that they're going to consider it, miscarriages, abortions. And it's like, dude, it's just going to be that way. I promise you. It'll just be that way. It's been that way before, at least, so.
And it's also going to be more difficult in cases like ectopic pregnancies, which are, generally hopefully caught early on into a pregnancy. And that's, a time when it's medical. It's an intervention that has to happen to save. It's not a pregnancy that would go to term anyway, but it can very, very quickly kill a woman, and it's going to complicate that process as well. Just being able to get an abortion for a very, very clear, obvious medical issue.
Yeah, or if the woman has a malicious form of cancer, like Hodgkin's or something like that.
And it's going to put doctors at risk too. The doctors that are willing to perform these things, like it's not okay.
No.
Does tubal pregnancy fall into this bucket?
Absolutely.
Because that's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And you essentially need abortion services for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got to go in surgically and you got to get rid of it. So
Yeah. Final thoughts?
it's about to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Sally's here because it's one of those things where it's like, I'm very pro-choice and I have a lot of opinions on this, but the truth is, it's sort of like, as a man, I feel like I have to step back and let, somebody with a uterus have these decisions and have their say, I can listen, but if I'm saying my opinions, I'm sort of saying what my opinions are based off of what I've heard from people who have a right to speak on this. Does that make sense?
But it's also important because like what's more powerful than the voice and opinion of a white man,
Yeah.
So I mean that's just how it is, and so
unfortunately,
there's a
you have
time
a point.
and place. Yeah, there's a time and place. You should definitely censor women, but.
Well, it's like, I mean,
with the unfortunately,
this is why I'm still vocal
but...
about what my opinion is, right?
Yeah.
But I hesitate to always have to pick my words carefully, but the truth is I am very opinionated. I'm very pro-choice. I just, and yeah, maybe, more men stood up and to help, unfortunately, white men are going to just kind of listen to more, and that's just the way our society is built. If more white men stand up for women in this regard,
and as long as you're not talking over, it doesn't mean that it shouldn't. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk at all.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Because I mean, women are just. We're so emotional, so I mean, we're looking at this topics it's way too emotionally charged.
Yeah.
We can't.
And you get hysterical and
probably on the rag or something. So should not be listened to anyway.
Right.
But
is I think the core message you kind of need a bit of a unified front. Because God knows that they have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people that want to take away women's rights,
men kind of have to stop being icky. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's that aspect, and dude, knock it off. Grow up,
You know what's icky? Wax-covered dicks, okay? That's icky.
Yeah.
You know what's icky? Having sex with a mule.
Yeah, that is icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I will, when you look at, images of pro-life, quote-unquote pro-life marches and events, it's very split down the middle. It's very, 50-50 equal representation on both sides, men and women. But at least, if you look at images of even just a few weeks ago in Seattle, any sort of reproductive rights, any sort of pro-choice or abortion rights rally, the majority of people there seems are female identifying. And it would be cool to see that equal representation.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
See more of that.
Yeah, and I mean that is to say what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it's not just a lady problem.
No, it isn't. It's absolutely not. And it's any rights that are taken from any of us are
people that care about human rights.
Mm-hmm. It's just I'm not. There's so many groups of people that are affected by these sort of, archaic decisions on whoever you happen to be. And I don't look or live in that kind of body that has that. but I still am affected by that, right? And I have, because of that, I feel the necessity to fight for these people. You know?
Yeah, it's simply just something I believe in. And to also, you know, I've heard these so-called pro-lifers talk about pro-choice men, and they called pro-choice men weak for this reason, because they just want to fuck and then leave, all of them, right? This is not true. My grandfather, who's probably the strongest motherfucker I've ever met, was surprisingly pro-choice, based simply on the grounds that he was like, I don't have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That, I mean, he was certainly not weak. You know what I mean?
It's as simple as that. It really is as simple as that.
And the man had 7 children, you know, multiple children, you know? Like, he, you know, the thing is like, he wasn't just in it to fucking leave. So again, I try to not generalize what people, you know, all of these things surrounding this issue, even these pro-lifers, although I will caution them that, again, the company you keep are with these people. I just want you to know that you're comfortable and complicit with these people. As long as you're cool with that, I don't give a shit, you know.
They seem pretty pleased with themselves.
Yeah.
They seem very happy, well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
Those
they don't
army
seem
of
to mind.
God people.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, everybody, that was our show. You know, dour stuff sometimes, you know. Yeah. And if you made it to this point through the episode and you still like us, I'm very thankful. So thank you all. Thank our listeners. We love you so much.
Our listeners are great.
Yeah, they're wonderful, wonderful people. Every last one of them. I am Christopher Whedon. Thank you for listening. And I, as always, am a history boy.
And that's right, folks. I am Tyler Armentrout, history boy extraordinaire. If you liked the episode and you want to listen to more, you can find us on all the places where you found this one. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us, you know, positive reviews anywhere you can go, whether it be a thumbs up on the YouTube, positive review on Spotify, all across the board. If you really like us, you can support us for as little as $1 a month on Patreon. If you go as high as $5, you get access to the Patreon exclusive show, The History Boys Presents the Tyler Armstrong Project, featuring Christopher Whedon. New episodes every month. We got a new one coming up very, very soon. You know, support us if you like us, and actually, even if you have suggestions for episodes, questions, comments, concerns, that's where you go to historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. So.
Indeed. And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. As always, thank you so much for listening. And we love all of our listeners and Patreon people as well. And real quick, I just want to mention, this is something we sort of decided on listener submissions. There's a lot of them, and I want to get to all of them. So we decided that what we're going to do is this. You can be anybody, any listener, to submit an idea for a show. You send that to our email or in our DMs on social media, and we will add it to the list, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to, for the $1 level, the very bottom level on our Discord, we're going to vote which one of those comes first, and we'll figure out, you know, a reasonable way of conducting voting and things like that. But that's what we're gonna do, and that way, it's a little bit more equitable instead of me deciding, you know, right then and there. I feel like sometimes people get left out that way, so that's what I'm gonna start doing. I don't know how often we're gonna do the vote. You know, maybe let me know. You know, if you have any ideas for that, this is an evolving idea, you can let me know, and you know, get on our Discord and make your voice heard. There are two ideas that I'm not going to put up to a vote, I'm already going to work on them. And just so our listeners know who that is, they know who they are, right? I want to say Kurtz, Mr. Jason Kurtz, friend of the show. His idea is definitely getting made. It's a daunting one, and it's big, and it's going to take me a little bit more time than the normal episode. So that's going to happen. I just have to do a lot of work. So it'll be good when it comes out, but it's going to come slower than others. Another one is Kobe. Kobe had a really great idea. I didn't really know anything about it and fell down a rabbit hole, desperately trying to find books about it. There are few, but maybe I can have enough resources to pull together a really interesting story on that, because I think that story deserves to be told. You know who you are. You know what that story is. I just want to tell those two are going to get made. Otherwise, I want to vote on all of them. I think it would be really fun and a really cool idea for fans to submit and then fans to vote. Right? I think that would be really cool to do. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. And on this episode, I just want to thank Sally Jordan for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And
Great time.
Thank you. I'm glad you had a good time.
Great time talking about rough stuff, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we liked having you here. You're welcome back anytime. Maybe we'll talk about something better, like, I don't know, sporks or some other history thing that's
ice cream.
Maybe a little less,
I do have questions.
Of the waffle cone.
Googly eyes themselves. That would be an interesting one.
History googly eyes.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Put that in the submissions, Jerry. We'll vote on that.
Yeah. There you go.
Get all the votes.
Sally, do you want to talk about following you on Twitter, Twitch, anything like that?
Yeah, you can find me at Silly Jupiter on Twitch and on Twitter, and sometimes I use those things. Sometimes I take breaks, though. Sometimes life gets in the way.
It sure does.
Sleep. It's weird how having a grown-up job just depletes all the fun stuff. But at Silly Jupiter, it's like Sally Jupiter from Watchmen, but silly. That's great. So and vote in your primaries. Vote in your local elections. Do that.
Agreed.
Oh, actually, I'm a producer for Naked Brunch every Saturday at 4 at the Rendezvous. It's no prepared material. Comedy open mic. Sign-ups at 4. No prepared material. Only riffing and crowd work.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty interesting idea.
It's a thing. Yeah.
At the unofficial headquarters of the History Boys.
The Rendezvous. Yep. Auspicious establishment.
Sally.
Yeah.
Do you want to take us out?
Love you. Bye.
Yay.